said a hip hop, the hip to the hip hop. You don't stop the rockin' to the bang bang boogie. Say up jump the boogie to the rhythm of the boogie to beat. Now what you hear is not a test. I'm rapping to the beat, and me, the groove, and my friends are gonna try to move your feet. You see, I am Wonder Mike, and I like to say hello. Up to the black, to the white, the red, and the brown, the purple, and yellow. But first, I gotta bang, bang, the boogie to the boogie. Say up, jump the boogie to the bang, bang, boogie. Let's rock. You don't stop, rock the rhythm, that'll make your body rock. Well, so far you've heard my voice, but I brought two friends along. And next on the mic is my...
I bring at least 165 or 6 friends along every day. Farwell's Force official membership continues to climb. Hey, if you want to be a part, an official part of the Farwell Force, a force for good, a force for change, a force to be reckoned with, you give us 15 minutes, we give you an official Farwell's Force membership number. When you call in for a chat, just let us know or drop me an email anytime. Mike@570news.com. The song to start our show today, Rapper's Delight. On this day in 1979, the Sugar Hill Gang released that song. Now, it wasn't the first song to feature rapping. However, it is generally considered to be the song that first popularized hip-hop in the United States and around the world, and it's got that iconic opening lyric. I said, a hip-hop, the hippie, to the hip-hip-hop. You knew it even before. I can't say it as well as Sugar Hill Gang sung it. Released on this day in 1979, Rapper's Delight. And was it just me? Or was there a little bit of Another One Bites the Dust in there? Or since Another One Bites the Dust came out later, was there a little bit of Rapper's Delight in Queen's Another One Bites the Dust? I don't know, but that's just what my ears picked up on this Tuesday morning, the 16th of September. A very good morning to you. Thank you so much for stopping by, spending some of your valuable time with us. I would like to send a hearty congratulations to the city above Toronto, the city of Vaughan, Stephen Del Duca, the mayor there, and the former leader of the Ontario Liberal Party, brought forward a motion at a council meeting yesterday, and by a narrow vote, but an approving vote nonetheless, the city of Vaughan is scrapping its speed camera program. So what we learn in all of that is...
So you're telling me there's a chance?
Oh, there's a chance, all right. And not just any chance, but you, Kitchener, and you, region of Waterloo, can follow Vaughan's lead. All you have to do is listen to the people who have been talking to you about this and complaining about this and say, you know what, people, you're right. We didn't do a very good job with this speed camera program. We didn't roll it out all that well. We're going to just scrap our program here in the region as well and look at other traffic calming safety measures. That's what Vaughan is doing. And interestingly, just to bring it closer to home again, Vaughan is also part of a greater region, a city within the region of York. And the region of York has a speed camera program as well. Just like what we have here in the region, we've got our region of Waterloo, the speed camera program, which impacts cities. But Kitchener, for one example, has said, hey, we don't want this speed camera program on our streets. We're going to figure that out. But regional roads that run through the city still have the speed cameras. In Vaughan, they're saying, hey, York region, can you get those speed cameras off on the regional roads out of our city as well? Needless to say, the pushback continues, and Vaughan is showing the way for other municipalities. Ontario Premier Doug Ford has weighed in, as you well know, and said if cities don't get rid of these speed cameras, I'm going to help them get rid of these speed cameras. But Mayor Del Duca in Vaughan, the first to kind of, I guess, blink when it comes to the speed camera program, and says, you know what, we're done with it, we're going to scrap it, and we're just going to use other traffic calming safety measures. I think that's a terrific model for any other community that happens to be interested.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9.
All right, let's get to that Farwell Show 5 for this Tuesday morning, number 1. And this one hits, doesn't it? Hollywood legend Robert Redford has died. News of the Oscar winner's passing coming less than an hour ago. Redford was known for his starring roles in All the President's Men and Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid.
You just keep thinking, Butch. That's what you're good at.
Oh, the Sundance Kid. Redford also directed award-winning films such as Ordinary People and A River Runs Through It. Robert Redford was 89. Number 2, Statistics Canada says the annual pace of inflation accelerated to 1.9% in August from 1.7% in July. The agency says gas prices were up on a monthly basis and fell less year over year in August than in July, pushing the headline inflation rate higher. Number 3, on your Farwell Show 5 this morning, federal Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre made his return yesterday to the House of Commons.
My mother taught me never to be late, so please forgive me for my late arrival to the session. I had some meetings with extremely important people in East Central Alberta, Mr. Speaker, after which I was honored to be elected by the great people of Battle River Crowfoot. I served in this House. I thank the great Damien Kirk who made it possible, and I thank the Prime Minister for calling a prompt by-election. I wonder if one day he might regret that decision, but in a spirit of good faith, I wonder if he agrees that our goal should be a Canada where hard work is rewarded, where food and homes are affordable, where streets are safe, where borders are solid, and where we're all united under a proud flag.
The Liberals hold 169 seats in the House of Commons, meaning they need only 3 additional votes to pass legislation. The Bloc Québécois says it's willing to work with other parties if it benefits Quebec, while the Green Party is focused on holding the government accountable for meeting international climate targets. Number 4, there's another public information session today for light rail transit Phase 2. The region believes rail is the best business case for extending rapid transit into Cambridge, not rapid buses. The project comes with a price tag of more than $4 billion. Today's information session is at the Sports World Arena from 4:30 until 7. And there is a report expected back to Regional Council in November, outlining the business case for whatever preferred technology is used for rapid transit into Cambridge, and then we go about the business of trying to secure funding from upper levels of government. And number 5, on your Farwell Show 5 this morning, Regional Police looking for answers after 2 people were found dead over the last week. And one of those cases is the first homicide of the year in Waterloo Region. Yellow tape surrounds an apartment near downtown Kitchener, and the Major Crimes Unit is now involved in the investigation. A suspicious death has also been reported in North Dumfries. 36-year-old Elizabeth Spurgeon of Cambridge was found dead near West River Road and Brent Waterloo Road. And that is your Farwell Show 5 for this Tuesday morning. I couldn't help but think back on the conversation we had with Waterloo Regional Police Chief Mark Crowell when he was here a week or so ago, when he comes in for his monthly visit on the first Tuesday of every month from 11 until noon. And just a note on that, we're going to do it on the second Tuesday of October, because with the Kitchener Rangers season about to begin, the first Tuesday of October, I'm going to be on the road with the team. But the second Tuesday, Chief Crowell will be back here again answering your questions about policing in our community. And when he was here last and we talked about gun violence, he pointed out that we were yet to have a homicide in our region this year. And lo and behold, a week or so later, we're dealing with it. But here's just a little bit of what the chief had to say about gun violence and guns in general in our community.
Where we are this year is gun violence is still our number 1 focal area for crime suppression. So that's the 13th shooting incident of this year. At this point last year, we had 17 shooting incidents. So we are seeing a year-over-year difference. And as I've said before, the last 3 years, we've had an average of 21 shooting incidents per year. And the reason why this is our number one concern, if we look at the homicides last year, 4 of the 5 homicides involved firearms. And in the commission of many offenses, we're seeing real and replica firearms. To this point this year, we've yet to have a homicide in Waterloo Region. That's a staggering statistic. I was just in the United States last week. I was at a conference with chiefs from right across the U.S. And I'll give you a comparison of a community that's a little smaller than us, Kansas City, Missouri. Population of 516,000. Last year, they had 144 homicides, 571 shootings. So I'll ask you, what type of society do you want to live in? And I can tell you where I want to live. I'm very proud to live here. And I think that the laws of this land continue to evolve. But as a community, we get to decide what we restrict and what we prohibit and also what we allow. And that's an ongoing conversation. But very proud to be a Canadian, very proud to be from Waterloo Region.
An interesting comparison to a similar-sized municipality in the United States. That was just 2 weeks ago today when Chief Crowell was in studio with us. And again, noting that to this point, into the month of September, 8 months into the year, we were yet to have a homicide, and now regional police are dealing with their first and also looking at a suspicious death in North Dumfries Township. Don't be confused either by the conversation there. It was what we were talking about a couple of weeks ago with gun violence. There's nothing to indicate yet, anyway, that the issues that were the investigations that are underway right now have anything to do with firearms. But I thought it was worth reflecting back on what we talked about just 2 weeks ago and noting then that there had not yet been a homicide. And now here we are with police investigating our first of 2025. And I'm sure I speak for many when I say let's hope it's our last of 2025. All right, we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, your morning wake-up call for this September the 16th. And this one kind of occurred to me while we were out walking Rosie the pandemic pup last night. And the question is kind of a simple one, touching on what the chief just said about violence or the relative safety in our community, but he's proud to live in a community like this. I'm wondering, too, what kind of, safety aside, what kind of community you would like to live in. If somebody asked you the question today, where you would like to live, suburbia or a condominium tower, for example, what would your answer be? Because it seems to me that we're building an awful lot of one thing in this region. And I hear an awful lot about the missing middle. I hear an awful lot about making condominiums and apartments 2 or 3 bedrooms, but you're still in an apartment building or a condominium tower. And boy, oh boy, that is a rather dramatic change from the way our communities were built, isn't it? It just seems, I get it, we have to go up and up and up, but does anybody get the opportunity for a house with a little yard anymore, or is that just gone? The new Canadian/Waterloo Region dream is, come on in, we've got an apartment building for you to live in. And this came home to roost in Waterloo at their meeting last week. I'll share that and get your thoughts on where you would like to live, given the choice. Do you want that condominium tower, or would you like a place with a backyard? This is the Mike Farwell Show on 570 News Radio and Rogers TV. I mentioned to you yesterday that over the course of the long weekend that my beloved and I just enjoyed, because we took some extra time off to take care of, some important personal matters, we played tourist in our own town, and it was lovely. I did, though, as we left downtown Kitchener, feel as though I was emerging from... I don't know. I've mentioned this even to a city councillor in Kitchener before. I sometimes feel when I'm downtown a wee bit claustrophobic because there are so many buildings and they're getting taller and taller and taller. We've got a couple of 50-story suckers going up in downtown Kitchener now. And so as I I came out of the downtown area, I literally felt the sense of more openness. And look, downtown is an area where we want to intensify. That's where these buildings go up. Just think of other major metropolitan areas, of which we are undoubtedly one, right? The region as a whole, we are the 10th largest municipality in this entire country. So I get it. But for somebody that grew up here in a time where these tall buildings weren't everywhere and it didn't feel as claustrophobic, it's a distinct change, to say the very least. And it's not just happening in Kitchener, it's happening all around the region. And in Waterloo last week, a couple of housing proposals came before council. And as is usually the case when these proposals come before council, there are folks there who take time out of their day to go and delegate, to make a presentation, to share with council what they think of the proposal. And I felt as though in Waterloo during this meeting, it was a little bit paternalistic, if you will, on the part of council, where it's like, listen, I hear you, there, a little pat on the head, but we know at council what's best for the city. And so thank you for sharing your concerns, but we're going to go ahead with these projects anyway, including a 30-story tower on Albert Street near Wilfrid Laurier University, which one woman, several spoke, but here's a little bit of what one woman had to say about it.
The density of this building would be almost 4 times what the official plan allows. So it's at 2,887 bedrooms per hectare compared to 750. This, we feel, should not be permitted. 30 stories is just too high and would be the highest in the Laurier neighborhood. Laurier Library is 7 stories. The buildings at Luther University College are 2 stories. It will be out of sync with the 3-story building to the west, the 1.5-story house to the north, and the empty lot to the south. It
is drastic. Of that, there is no question, but council did approve the 30-story building. And Ward 6's Mary Lou Rowe explained why.
I will support this motion, but I understand the challenges of this. I understand that 30 stories is hard as we grow up as opposed to out. So I get it. I agree in many ways with some of those height challenges, but I also understand that this is what we're zoned for and we do have to go up. So it's a hard one.
And there you go. Like I hear what you're saying. This is difficult, but this is what we are zoned to do because we have to go up. We have to intensify. We can't go out any further. So that's why when we see building happening, it's happening in existing established neighborhoods where we put more and more units of housing as opposed to houses in the traditional sense, but units of housing because we've pretty much locked ourselves into all of the land that we had available. Another gentleman spoke with concerns for neighbors near Kiwanis Park because of some new townhouses, 11 of them going to be built there.
There are 3 townhouse projects planned to go across the street, and they've already been approved. One is 31 units that have already gone up directly across the street. Together, that is 125 units already on their way. Add this proposal at 137 to 141 Woolwich, and we're talking about a total of 136 new units in the space of a single block, probably 100 meters from each other.
And again, folks that will come forward to a council meeting and express these concerns would often be dismissed to some degree as NIMBYs, right? People that just don't want something new in their backyard. NIMBY, not in my backyard. And Ward 5's Jen Vasic in Waterloo, oh boy, did she push back against any opposition to this infill of 11 townhomes near Kiwanis Park.
This application represents good planning, and I don't want to reiterate what my council colleagues have said, but it's relatively low density. It is low density for a neighborhood, though I understand it's a change. And it's attainable housing. They're townhouses that are going to be attainable. And everyone belongs in every neighborhood, so it's not going to be affordable housing. It's going to be attainable, and people want to move into your neighborhood. You wanted to move into your neighborhood. It transitions gradually, and I had this note as well, and I really want to highlight it, which is that what you are getting here is 3 more units compared to what the applicants could just build tomorrow without anything. And now you're going to get 3 more neighbors. And so the tensions I think that this application really brings up for me are 2. One, and I'm really surprised this wasn't the main part of the conversation, which is that there are 2 rental units that are being lost, and the folks who live in these units feel disengaged and completely blindsided by the whole process, which is not just the city's fault. Like, this is how capitalism works. And so I'm not going to get into a rant about capitalism at the moment, though I really feel like I want to.
But we resisted the rant on capitalism, and hey, you wanted to move into this neighborhood, so you're getting new neighbors, and you should just be happy about that. And I want to say, too, I'm on side with Waterloo Council here. I get it. Like, we need housing, period. But these are significant changes in sometimes established neighborhoods. And I was walking around last night, and I'm looking at all of the new buildings. I'm like, well, where are the houses with yards? We just don't have space for them anymore, I guess. So the new idea is, by all means, move into the region and enjoy your condo, right? Or maybe your stacked townhouse. But that's the kind of housing that we're building today. And I don't know, is that, I don't think you get a choice, really. Welcome to Waterloo Region. Here's a 400. My buddy's looking for places. There are condos for like 400 to 500 square feet for hundreds of thousands of dollars. It's pretty wild. Let's go to the phones, hear from you. Paul, good morning.
Good morning. Listen, you raised it again. So a little bit of facts here. The population of Kansas City,
oh my
Missouri,
goodness, Paul, I'm talking about housing. What are you talking about?
You raised the thing that Chief Kroll had to say. The population of Kansas City, Missouri is 508,000 people. The population of Kansas City metropolitan area is 2.25 million residents. That's why the difference in the numbers.
Really?
2.25 million residents in the metropolitan area.
Okay, so why can't you compare the Kansas City, Missouri, and it's 500,000 to the region of Waterloo and it's 700,000? Why won't you?
He's just using one little section of Kansas City.
Okay.
The metropolitan area is 2.25 million people.
Okay.
That's why the murder rate is higher, because they're taking in all of the metropolitan area.
All right, I got you. The entire metropolitan area, says Paul, about gun violence, when we're looking at a community, and what I was focused on for the moment was the 1 million people who will be here. We're trying to get 1 million ready in this region, and the housing that we're creating is going up, 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 and away. And that's what we have to do. I get it. But it is a dramatic change, and I can understand the tension. And frankly, if I'm just being honest with you, given the choice, I will be very happy staying in my bungalow for a while, okay? Because I just, that's kind of neighborhood I grew up in. And I'm not all that interested in being inside a building with hundreds and hundreds of other units. But that's what we're doing today, and I get it. It just so happens that this being the third Tuesday of the month already, our friends from Habitat for Humanity Waterloo Region will be here a couple hours from now at 11:30 to talk about housing. What better day to do it when all of this is on my mind? This is the Mike Farwell Show, 570 News Radio and Rogers TV. We are coming up on that fun time of year in our municipalities. And I use the term fun very loosely in this regard because it is budget season. We will begin hearing more and more in the weeks and months ahead about the budgetary decisions that our various councils are grappling with. You might recall, even going back to last spring, the regional government is working towards a proposal that they don't bring forward a budget with greater than a 5% tax increase, which, quite frankly, to me anyway, is still very much on the extravagant side, considering the numbers that we just heard this morning when it comes to inflation at 1.9% year over year. But I'll leave that there. 5% is a number that the region has thrown out as a target for this year's budget increase. And then, of course, you'll remember last year in Wilmot Township, they were talking about a potential tax increase more than 50%, ultimately settling around 18, which is, again, exorbitant, at least in my opinion. When you're getting into double digits, and we've seen double digits in back-to-back years from the region, all of this by way of setting the stage for what Woolwich Township is facing right now. And that is a staff presentation on the budget that outlines the need for tax hikes over the next 3 years of, are you ready for it? Do you want to sit down first? 22%, 18%, and then 18% again. If you are in Elmira or anywhere else in Woolwich Township, brace yourself because those are some pretty big numbers. Sandy Shantz is the mayor of Woolwich Township and joins us to talk about this. Mayor Shantz, good morning.
Good morning, Mike.
What did you think when you heard those numbers? Over 3 years, 22%, then 18 and 18% for tax increases.
Those are big numbers, Mike. And honestly, it's I can't imagine that we're going to land there in the end. But the problem is sort of one of where you're starting from. And so if you look at about 12 years ago, there was a study done that looked at our infrastructure deficit. And they said to sort of fix it, to get back on track, you would need a 4.5% infrastructure increase annually. And we have not done that. So we're essentially getting further and further behind. And the other thing that we've been doing is kind of subsidizing tax increases through using reserves to ensure that we still maintain the service levels that we have, but to keep the tax rates low. And that works for a year or two, but when it happens year over year, at some point you have to kind of pay the piper. So I've asked staff to look at that, and what staff have brought forward is what they think might be not a sustainable, but a way to sort of jumpstart that process. Their actual comments of if you really wanted to fix it would have looked closer to what Wilmot put out last year. So I don't want people to panic, but I also know that we've had feedback from both sides saying we like the services, we don't want to cut services, but also we don't want to increase taxes. So there's a lot of work to do yet.
No question about that. And you got to, I think, somewhat there of how we ended up at this point where you talked about a dozen years ago, the need was identified for annual increases of 4.5% just to maintain infrastructure. Why were those investments annually not made starting 12 years ago?
But because the councils of the day didn't feel it was palatable.
One of the other things that I have seen as a challenge in Woolwich Township, Mayor Shantz, is what's described as a decentralized approach to budgeting. What does that mean? How has the township been budgeting?
I'm not sure I've heard it described that way. So what do you mean when you say that, so that I can make sure I'm answering the right question? So
what I've heard from the director of finance and the treasurer at the township is that there's no budget software, for example. So how is the township going about the process of budgeting? I mean, are we just running Excel spreadsheets over and over again?
In a word, yes. They're sophisticated Excel spreadsheets. But, it's been the same system essentially for, I understand, 25 years that they've been using. And so that also makes it hard in a lot of ways to analyze the data and the information that we have. So we have purchased a new software, and we are in the process of implementing it, but it's not implemented now. And everybody, even CFOs, look at things a little bit differently. So our new CFO is taking a little bit of a different approach to budgeting and to how we look at things. So we're working through a lot of pieces this year, and my bottom line hope is that we can get to a point where we feel like we've got a budget that is not only from the financial point of view, but from the practical point of view is a workable one going forward.
It sounds like, and I'm glad to hear, Mayor Shantz, that there has been a decision to purchase some new budgeting software, because it sounds like maybe some modernization was required here in the process.
Yes. Yeah. And again, that's sort of staff of the day looking at all the priorities, looking at what councils felt was a palatable increase in tax increases, and saying, okay, well, we can put off the financial piece, because we really have to do roads, or we really have to do whatever it might have been. So yes, I think it's a good investment, and I think it's past due. Given
the size of the deficit, let's say, in infrastructure, going back those 12 years where the annual 4.5% was not added to the municipal tax levy year over year, so you've got a considerable backlog, to say the least, in that regard. How do you keep the township functioning adequately if you don't go as high as 22% this year? Like, what might be at risk of crumbling on you when it comes to infrastructure? Will your roads be full of potholes? What is the township facing here?
Yeah, I think there's a few things that we need to look at. One is yes, the projects that we're going to do. And roads are a tough one, because it's an interesting way to look at it, and it makes sense when you understand it. But maintaining our sort of medium-level roads is actually the best bang for your buck than sort of fixing the really bad ones. Not that the really bad ones won't ever get fixed, but there's a balance between sort of where you focus on maintaining what's good, and then sort of slowly work at the ones that are really bad. So I think staff have done a good job of prioritizing with the funds that they have. So yeah, how do we keep going? We just try to make the best choices going forward.
Will the council, Mayor Shantz, have to look at cuts in this budget in order to bring in a number that taxpayers feel is palatable?
Yeah, that's what I'm not sure of. So we've asked staff to go back and do some more work. Obviously, so I've also brought in sort of public and council earlier in the process, so that we can all sort of struggle with the same things that the staff have always struggled with in the fall. And I've lost your question.
I just wondered if cuts might be something that the township is going to have to be looking at.
Yeah. We want to maintain service levels, so we need more information to know exactly what that means.
And when we consider infrastructure deficits, Mayor Shantz, do those deficits arise because municipalities do not get the same level of funding from the provincial government? I mean, how do those deficits even begin?
Mm-hmm. Well, I think you well know that the tax system is broken. And, to use property taxes to do the things that we are doing is just not working. So we need those inputs from other levels of government, so from the province, from the feds, to help offset that. There's, I don't have the figure quite in my head, but there was a chart that excuse me, showed taxes, the total taxes brought in at the airport, including, excuse me a minute, sorry, including income tax from people that work there, at all the different businesses, business taxes, property tax, all the taxes. And the amount that the township got was minuscule. And so I don't know. I don't have the answer. I'm not an economist. I'm not an accountant. So I don't know what a good tax system would look like, but it's broken.
No disagreement here. And I'm not an economist either, but I think when we look at the numbers as often as we do and as closely as we do, we begin to understand how broken it is. So I appreciate what you said earlier, Mayor Shantz, that we're having this conversation now. It's mid-September, so that the public is kind of aware of these struggles that staff are always dealing with at this time of year when budget season rolls around. Folks, now, you don't want them to panic. The number on the table is 22% this year. Anybody who follows municipal politics knows the number starts in one place and comes down to another. But can you give us a sense, like, where are we at in this process? What do the months ahead look like as you work to arrive at whatever that final number is?
Yeah, I've asked staff to bring sort of final draft budget for discussion in November. It's early November. Sorry, I don't have the date in front of me, but one of the early meetings in November that we have. And so we can have a final sort of look at where things are at and have a discussion, and then we'll go away, and the final budget will be presented in January, early January.
We'll keep our eyes and ears on it and probably have more conversations down the road. But I appreciate this one today, Mayor Shantz. Thank you for being here.
Okay, thank you.
Sandy Shantz is the mayor of Woolwich Township. It's going to be a bitter pill to swallow. Of that, you can be certain. 22% is the number on the table right now. The 3-year forecast says 18% next year and another 18% the year after that. Because, as we have heard so many times before, if you don't pay the piper in the past, eventually you got to pay, and you got to pay dearly. So what we learn here this morning is that a dozen years ago, it was put forward that the township should every year have 4.5%. That's your starting baseline on the municipal tax increase in Woolwich Township to make up for crumbling infrastructure, to ensure that infrastructure was maintained at a level that was adequate. 4.5% right off the hop 12 years ago. And when you didn't do that, here we are a dozen years later. And I understand how difficult that is, or I understand why a council of the day would not want to do that, because it's not going to be politically popular. And if you want to maintain your role as a councillor or a mayor, you try not to do unpopular things. I'm struggling, though, and you always can help because you're so much smarter than I am. But I'm not in those meetings. I'm not a chief financial officer by any stretch of the imagination. But here's some things that I think I know. One is the system is absolutely, the tax system is absolutely broken. Cities are being asked to pay for way too many things just on the property tax base. It's just not, it's not sustainable. It's broken completely. I do not disagree with that. One of the other areas, though, where I really struggle because of what I know, you've got staff, the budget line for staffing costs is one of the highest you're going to have on any municipal budget. Should those increases not only go up annually by the rate of inflation, or do staff at municipalities get increases that are higher than the rate of inflation. Because I don't understand why year over year it shouldn't just be an inflationary increase. Do staff get paid that much more year over year? Do construction costs escalate that much more year over year? So when you're doing that maintenance on that bridge or on that road, it's costing you more than the rate of inflation. Or are we trying to do too many damn things as a municipal government and therefore costing that much more money? I don't know, but that's what I struggle with. I don't know why year over year we can't say this is what we're doing. This is how much more it's going to cost us because of inflation. Why do those costs keep going up beyond the rate of inflation? I haven't been able to figure that out. But hey, I'm not an economist. Maybe you know better than I do. And I always love hearing from you on the Mike Farwell Show. This is 570 News Radio and Rogers TV.
There's a balance between sort of where you focus on maintaining what's good and then sort of slowly work at the ones that are really bad. So I think staff have done a good job of prioritizing with the funds that they have. So yeah, how do we keep going? We just try to make the best choices going forward.
Woolwich Township Mayor Sandy Shantz joining us to talk about the 22% tax increase that they're staring down in Woolwich. It won't land on that number, but it's going to be a whopper either way. And here's my simplistic look at this. You are a municipal government. You provide this much in the way of service for this much money. The next year, why do you need 22% more? It should be inflationary. Why? I don't. So are you? What are you offering more service? Are you hiring more staff? I don't know, but I struggle with the 22%. Did anybody ask for? I don't know. Anyway, let's get to the phones here from you because you can always help me figure these things out. Greg, good morning.
Hi, Mike. Greg, 38 here.
Farwell's Forest member number 38. Good morning.
Yeah, just be able to tune in a bit earlier today, but no, I happen to hear this, and it almost sounds like you're talking about my life from 2003 till 2014. Bought a condo, didn't even think, okay, condo fees, yeah, can afford this, and also like, whoa, $40 a month, 6 months later, condo board decides this. Also next year, oh, now it's up to this. It went from like $165 till eventually $403 per month, and in between there was two special assessments that the current condo board decided to say, yeah, we're going to borrow $200,000 because past condo boards have not collected for future purposes. So we got nothing, yet someone goes and agrees to, yeah, we're going to fix up this building falling apart. Oh, that'll be $3,000 per unit, please. Well, I don't have it. And then later on, oh, that'll be $2,400. It basically drove me out of there, and I'm renting ever since. So basically, this problem is caused not by the current ones. They got to figure out something. Yeah, I don't know what they're going to figure out. But the problem is whoever was not thinking ahead in the past.
Yeah, and we hear that time and again from municipalities. And I'll tell you something. I've been in the place that I'm in. I bought it in 2014. And in the past 11 years or so, my municipal property tax in Kitchener has gone up more than 30%. In fact, almost 40. About 36%, I think the number is. I can tell you something. My wages have not gone up 36% in the last 11 years. So every year I fall in real dollars further behind. And I'm trying to figure it out. Kitchener's no different than Woolwich. Woolwich is no different than Wilmot. Wilmot is no different than Cambridge. This is what municipalities are facing. We'll talk more about this on the show tomorrow with Rob Deutschman when he joins us for Political R&D tomorrow morning at 11:30. This is the Mike Farwell Show, 570 News Radio and Rogers TV. Bonnie Crombie, we hardly knew ya. The now former leader of the Ontario Liberals announcing her resignation this weekend, but not immediately following the leadership review, a review which returned support of around 57%. And so you could say, well, that's more than half, but 43% opposed to your continued leadership is a fairly significant number. However, Ms. Crombie, after getting that 57% vote of support, said, "That's it. I'm sticking on. I'm going to continue holding the wheel of this Ontario Liberal ship." And then several hours later, I'm not sure what happened in the hours in between, but several hours later, word came that instead of staying on after the 57% support in the leadership review, Ms. Crombie would resign instead. I was hoping that I might be able to get to that answer of what went on in those few hours with the folks at New Leaf Liberals. You may remember us talking to them several months ago now when they started their website, newleafliberals.com. They began a petition for Ontario Liberal Party renewal, and they asked the following in this petition. Whereas our party needs fundamental renewal to rebuild from the grassroots up and reconnect with Ontarians to form government in 2029. Whereas we must drive committed membership growth, expand our pools of candidates and volunteers, and modernize our campaign infrastructure between election cycles. Whereas our party requires fresh leadership voices and transparent, democratic processes that engage all members in shaping our future. And whereas the current leadership has demonstrated an inability to undertake the necessary steps to rebuild our party and win back Ontarians' trust. Therefore, we petition for, among other things, a fair and open leadership review process. And should the leader not receive a 2/3 majority of the delegate vote, that leader should resign. That's what happened on the weekend when Ms. Crombie's leadership came under review, and that's now what we have here in Ontario, a Liberal Party in search of its next leader. Nathaniel Arfin is a co-founding member and organizer of New Leaf Liberals and joins us to talk more about it. Nathaniel, good morning.
Good morning. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for making the time. Is this the outcome you were hoping for?
Yes. I think that after Sunday, the party has a clear answer. That was really what most people were hoping for. And knowing where we stand and that we are able to start rebuilding in meaningful ways.
Is that answer, Nathaniel, simply that Bonnie Crombie was not the leader the party needed? Or what other answer are you taking from this?
I think the party has to reflect on what led us here. Effectively, we did not connect with Ontarians on the messages that mattered most in the past 3 elections. We need to reevaluate who we are as a party, what we value, and how we strengthen ourselves moving forward so that we can engage new volunteers, so that we can keep our Liberal associations alive in every riding across Ontario. We need to be a party that people can see themselves in, and up until now, for the past almost 10 years, we haven't been.
And I would have to think that as members of the Ontario Liberal Party, you have to be concerned about that, don't you? You're coming up on a decade kind of in the political wilderness here.
And that's why we started this movement. We felt that Bonnie Crombie's leadership team wasn't taking seriously the fact that we weren't resonating with Ontarians in meaningful ways. We saw it in the review of our campaign that we didn't effectively answer the question, why should I vote for the Ontario Liberal Party? And failing that, how are we going to engage people, get them out to the polls, get them to volunteer with us, get them to give us their money in form of donations?
Where do you go from here? What does this Ontario Liberal Party need to once again resonate with voters in this province?
One of the big things that's going to, of course, happen is a leadership race. But one thing that I would like to ensure that the party doesn't do is solely focus on the leadership race. Our PLAs, our Liberal associations, our riding associations across the province have atrophied. Our organizational muscle has atrophied. We don't have the resources across the province to truly engage with our communities, and we need to meaningfully invest our time and effort in engaging with our communities. And that doesn't have to come from the leader. It doesn't have to come from a nominated candidate. That's work that can be done by volunteers in every single riding.
How did those ridings atrophy over time?
I think that the party, central party leadership structure has started to create a culture of cliquiness and in and out groups. And when you don't build an inclusive atmosphere that grows with demand, and you don't include people and you make people's voices not feel heard, they move away and they no longer care about what you try to value. And that has been seen throughout the province. People haven't been heard, and they've left the party.
Is this, by any chance, Nathaniel, what comes with 15 years in power in the province? That maybe you just think that everything's fine and you stop listening to those other voices?
I don't think that is a given. And we've seen that in the past with the Conservatives in Ontario and with the Liberal Party leading Canada, that a party that truly cares about reinvigorating itself, that truly invests in listening to communities, can stay in power for a very long time without necessarily developing that kind of apathetic attitude to the people. It does take hard work. It does take leadership who's willing to trust volunteers, trust people across the province to do work. And that it's a very difficult thing to build that kind of culture. And that's the culture we're striving to create now that we have a few years to rebuild.
What does a Liberal Party of Ontario that resonates with voters look like to you?
I think we need to be a party that is representative of the various communities in this province. Ontario is a very diverse place with diverse needs. There's rural and northern communities, and we lump them in as one sometimes, but those aren't the same thing. And our rural communities have diverse needs across Ontario. We need to show Ontarians that we are listening to their unique problems in their communities and building a representative democracy and building a representative party, one that cares about the issues that are local, but also understands the challenges at the provincial level.
Given the challenges for just the party, Nathaniel, in these almost past 10 years now, are you confident that you have the runway, that there's time before 2029 to get this ship righted and put up a meaningful challenge to Premier Ford in the next provincial election?
I do think so. I will give Bonnie Crombie a lot of credit because she did get us to the party status that we needed. She did do a lot of fundraising, and the party does have some money. So we do have a good stepping off point, not only for the next leader, but also from a party standpoint. We have some resources in place that we haven't had for the past 10 years.
Do you have any idea what happened on the weekend from the moment of the leadership review and the 57% vote where Ms. Crombie said she was staying on to the point where she decided she wasn't staying on? What happened there?
I don't have any particular insight. I do know that Bonnie took some time to meet again with her caucus. She did take some time to meet with the executive council and likely took some time to reflect with her family and her leadership team. At the end of the day, I was confident that Bonnie Crombie was going to realize that this was the right decision for the party and for the province, and I'm glad she made the decision that she did with such grace.
So what does the way forward look like from here, Nathaniel? How do you go about the process now of selecting a new leader?
Well, the party executive is going to decide the parameters of the leadership election. That will be happening in the coming months. And from there, each member of the Ontario Liberal Party will have an opportunity to cast their ballot. It will very likely be, again, a ranked ballot as it was in 2023. Every member will have an opportunity to hear from the candidates and decide who they best believe represents Ontarians and the Ontario Liberal Party.
Does New Leaf Liberals remain intact, or is this the end of your cause?
We had a meeting yesterday, and we continue to have discussions about the exact nature, the branding, the voice of what we are trying to accomplish. But we are going to remain in place as a group who advocates for a grassroots voice within the party. It's very important to us that we continue to be an Ontario Liberal Party that represents its members, and we believe that mission is not by any means over.
Any thoughts on who might make a good leader for the party?
I think that we have a great few candidates who have been rumored to be running. Jeff Lehman, former Mayor Barrie, Nate Erskine-Smith is an obvious name. I've heard Dr. Andrew Buzeri is considering it, and he's a person who's huge on the social determinants of health and is a doctor himself. There's going to be Karina Gould, who is my MP here in Burlington, is a rumored contender. There's going to be a lot of names thrown around in the coming weeks and months, but I'm sure the membership will select the best person to lead this party forward.
Nathaniel, I appreciate your time on the show this morning. Thank you very much for being here.
Thanks very much for having me.
Nathaniel Arfin is a co-founding member and organizer of New Leaf Liberals. I think it would be fair to say the group got what it wanted. It thought the party was a bit adrift. It certainly wasn't resonating, and the poll or election results show that. Wasn't resonating with Ontarians. Bonnie Crombie now out as leader. The challenge becomes getting that new leader in place and established enough to resonate with voters before the next election provincially in 2029. Or who the heck knows? Maybe it comes even sooner, because if I'm Doug Ford, I am licking my chops at this. It is free reign for Premier Ford at Queen's Park, isn't it? I think it is. And boy, oh boy, what a length of time in the wilderness for the Ontario Liberals after having been in power from 2003 to 2018. That last election held under, Kathleen Wynne stepped aside, and that was the end of that for the Ontario Liberal Party. But boy, oh boy, it has been virtually non-existent, certainly not resonating with Ontarians since then. What would you need to see from a Liberal Party in Ontario for it to earn your vote? Because right now, everything is leaning Doug Ford's way. Your thoughts always welcome on the Mike Farwell Show. This is 570 News Radio and Rogers TV.
I think we need to be a party that is representative of the various communities in this province. We need to show Ontarians that we are listening to their unique problems in their communities and building a representative democracy and building a representative party, one that cares about the issues that are local, but also understands the challenges at the provincial level.
Nathaniel Arfin is a co-founding member and organizer of New Leaf Liberals. That was a grassroots organization that sprung up essentially, I believe, in hopes of helping Bonnie Crombie, the now former leader, find the door on her way out. Just didn't feel like the party was headed in the right direction. Certainly was not resonating with voters here in the province. And quite frankly, I don't know that the Ontario Liberals have the runway ahead to not only get a new leader, but establish that leader to the point they can make a meaningful dent in the progressive Conservatives' armor here in Ontario. At this point, I know I'm looking 3+ years into the future if we go a full 4 years with this provincial government. But I think that Doug Ford and the progressive Conservatives cruise again in Ontario, because much like the NDP federally, the Liberals provincially have become all but irrelevant, haven't they? 519-570-2545, star 570, and 1-800-570-5715. They haven't even, the Ontario Liberals, had a leader in the provincial legislature since Kathleen Wynne. Like, Del Duca didn't win a seat, Crombie didn't win a seat, and here they go again. Let's go to the phones and hear from you. Dave, good morning.
Hey, good morning, Mike. Good guest. So I just listened to what he's saying about the Liberal Party, where they're going to go, and that's exactly the reason why they're not going to go anywhere. He's talking about all-inclusive, listening to people. Here's the deal. Ontarians don't care. They want to know what's going on with their taxes, what's going on with their money, what's the government doing to make their life a lot better, not just listening to this and that. It's a lot of jumbled mumble. Almost sound like Kamala Harris with her jumble, but I think the Liberals have missed the point, and they're missing what voters are listening for, and that's why Doug Ford does very well. He talks to the voters. He talks to Ontario. Thank you.
Okay, Dave, appreciate the call. That's what a populist tends to do, right? Whichever way the wind is blowing, the populist leader will shift in that direction and speak directly to you. These speed cameras are nothing but a tax grab, to use an example. But really right now, I just find it to be such an interesting time in politics generally. You heard our guest make reference to historically, and it's hard to forget that it was some 40 plus years, I believe the number is 40 and change, of conservative leadership in this province. And then we had an extended run of, that ended in the 80s. And then there was a little bit of back and forth. Then came Bob Rae. And I don't think the NDP will ever be forgiven for that. I think that's why they've kind of been in the Ontario political wilderness for some 3 decades now, since Premier Rae and the NDP. And then Mike Harris and the Conservatives again, and then 15 years of Liberal rule in this province. And I feel as though, I really do, I feel as though complacency set in. And that's a very dangerous thing. And how you rebuild now and think that you can get to the point where, again, historically, we saw decades of Conservative rule. I'm just not certain that the population, we as people, are ready for that sort of thing anymore. I don't know. Frank, good morning. Farwell's Force member number 26.
Hey, how you doing, Mike?
I'm good, thanks.
Congrats on the wedding, by the way. I forgot to jump the line yesterday.
Thank you. I really appreciate that.
Your guest, if he thinks that everything's all so rosy, why can't he run?
I'm curious about that, but, there are political organizers, Frank, and then there are political candidates. And I get every sense that Nathaniel's
these guys flop off in the wind.
Well, fair enough. I think there's an organizer, right? He's interested in helping to rebuild the party, not being the face of it. Marius, good morning.
Hey, good morning, Mike. I'll stay on topic. You had said something about Doug Ford being happy seeing her leave.
Yes.
I don't see it that way. Like, why would he be happy with that since she was such a weak candidate?
Sure, that's a fair point. But now they've got nobody, and they're going to have to reestablish somebody before the next election. So either way, maybe Doug Ford wins. But I get your point.
Right. And I just wanted to say it's such a popularity contest that she just didn't have, ability, I think. She was sort of like a Hillary Clinton, And nobody likes that, not even Liberals.
Well, she got them up to 14 seats, which is double the 7 they had when Kathleen Wynne left. But it's a long road ahead, I would say, for the Ontario Liberals. And now Bonnie Crombie is the ex-leader. All right, we're going to get you to the 570 News Center for an update. Don't forget, in 30 minutes' time, healthcare workers in our community are going to picket outside one of our local hospitals tomorrow. We'll tell you why just after 11. But after this update from the 570 News Center, we're remembering Bob McKillop, a local sports icon, on the Mike Farwell Show, 570 News Radio and Rogers TV. Well, it was 1 month ago that we lost a member of our community that meant an awful lot to an awful many. Bob McKillop, who spent some time in the Chicago White Sox organization and was a legendary Kitchener Panther and really a sporting icon in our community, passed away at the age of 83. And I don't think that we could do a show like this without paying tribute to the man who meant so much. So what a great selection of guests we have joining us in the studio this morning, including a former teammate of Bob's. We've got Tom McKenzie in the studio with us this morning. Good to see you, Tommy. Thanks for coming by.
I'm very happy to be here.
Ken
Not
Schilling,
under these circumstances, but
right. You know what? We'll make a point of talking more often, but it's good to have you here to remember Bob and what he meant to us. Ken Schilling with us as well. Spent a lot of time working alongside Bob in minor ball. Good to see you, Ken.
Well, thanks for having us. And I was lucky enough to play with Bob too.
Incredible stuff.
with us.
Fantastic. And John Thompson here as well. A long history with Bob McKillop through the Kitchener Sports Association, and John's a well-known name as well in our community. Good to see you, John. Thanks for being here.
Thanks, Mike. Thanks for hosting us.
Ken, I'll start with you because you let me know just this morning that the Major was a nickname that was bestowed upon Bob, I guess because you looked at this guy as a leader of the people he was around.
Yeah, I was lucky enough to play with Bob. I grew up through the minor baseball system, and our big goal was to go up and play with the Kitchener Panthers, to play with guys like Tommy and Gary Ebel and Bob McKillop. And Bob, when I came up as a junior and sat on the bench for a while because there were such great players there, he made you feel at home. And when he talked to you, he made you feel special about yourself. So he was, and we did call him the Major because he was like a major. He organized everything. He brought everything together. He was quite the man.
Tom, let's talk about Bob McKillop first of all as a teammate and what he was able to do on the ball diamond.
He was such a competitive guy. If I had to pick one word to describe him, it would be competitive. And I remember the one time we were actually playing, Kenny will remember, in the Ontario tournament that we had. Mm-hmm. And Bob was catching, and when he wasn't catching, he was pitching. And when he was pitching, he was falling down because he was so tired. and this was the whole way the tournament. He went, and we played something like 4 or 5 games in a day. On a 2-game period, and Bob was either pitching, catching, or playing third base sometimes even at the same. He would wherever we needed him, he was always there.
What was it about? You talk about that competitive streak, right? So did that stay just on the diamond? What was Bob like, Major, like off the field?
I would say that he was more easygoing, but there was still, when he wanted to do something, he did it the right way, and that carried on to other things as well. In fact, I think he did other stuff with hockey. He coached the hockey as well. So whatever he was doing, he set the standards pretty high.
Ken, as we mentioned, you got a chance to play alongside Bob as well. What was it like being a teammate of McKillop?
It was an honor. Like you say, growing up through minor baseball, you just looked and you went. I used to sneak into Victoria Park and watch them play there, and then at Centennial, just to watch them play and to get to meet them and play with them. And it was an honor. Like he was just so good. Like people don't realize what an athlete he was, a complete athlete.
John, Kitchener Sports Association for decades did so much in this community, helped to build so many things, including our Memorial Auditorium as an example. But you and Bob would have worked closely through your time with the KSA. What was that relationship like?
What I always appreciated about Bob was he was a straight shooter. So if you had to have a meeting, or wanted to have a meeting and you wanted a variety of opinions, Bob could be counted on for, one opinion as a minimum, sometimes 2 and 3 opinions, all well documented, well stated by Bob. And he was a fun guy, but he was no nonsense when it came to sharing what's good for the community. He loved this community. He grew up in Toronto, came here. He always said that was, such a major positive decision for him. So many of the things that KSA accomplished over the last number of decades, Bob, probably behind the scenes, had a voice, and a voice that was respected in shaping whatever we were going to do.
And this went into, I believe, John, really the grassroots of sport in our community. I know baseball was the first love, but we've already talked about coaching some hockey as well. The University of Waterloo remembered Bob McKillop for all that he meant to the school and to sports there. He really did transcend. It wasn't just baseball.
And I think KSA, once KSA started earning some money through the KSA 50-50 draws at the Ranger games, one of the mottos of KSA was putting skates on kids' feet. And of course, Bob was involved with more than hockey at University of Waterloo. He was general manager, Kitchener Minor Hockey Association for several years. And he wanted to see things thrive. Sure, it's great to be an elite athlete, and Bob was one of those, and he was probably an elite coach as well. I'll go one step further. He was an elite person, and he wanted to give back to his community, and that starts with the grassroots. No wonder that he and Donna Weber, with Donna's kids, were so tight in making sure kids had opportunity.
Boy, oh boy, you bring up that Weber name. You take the Webers, you take the McKillops, and then we've got Mackenzie and Schilling in studio too. But we're talking about the history of Kitchener Panthers baseball. Ken, was there any air about Bob having been in the Chicago White Sox organization for those years, coming back and playing intercounty ball with Kitchener?
Oh, absolutely. He was you strive to be like him or try to be. You can never be as good as him. I couldn't anyway. But just try to raise your level because you didn't want to let him down. Because he, like Tommy said, he's very competitive. He wanted to win. He wanted to win the right way. He taught the right way, and it was a pleasure. Just like I say, just trying to get up to his level or close to it.
Go ahead, Tom.
I have another aspect of it. My family and Bob. Bob and I are the same age. We have 2 children, boy and a girl, and they're both the same age. The girl's the same age. The boy's the same age, and so whenever we talked about anything related to sports, it was also to do with your family as well. And he was a good family man. He really was.
That had to be difficult, given not only being with the White Sox for a while, but the schedule that you all had as athletes here, high-level athletes in the community.
Yes, that's true. And there would be times when Bob had other things on the go, and he'd show up about 5 to 8 for game time, but that was because he was juggling more than what the average person would be doing, because he took on a lot of things, and but he got it done.
If I could just say something too, his wife Marg, who was a nurse, was at I had three children. All 3 of my children were born in St. Mary's, and Marg was there the day that they were all born. So it was sort of special. Him and Bob were very, very tight.
Yeah.
Yes.
Ken Schilling, Tom McKenzie, John Thompson in studio with us this morning as we remember Bob McKillop. We lost him about a month ago at the age of 83. He meant so much to local sports in this community and really even beyond sports. He was a pillar of our community. We continue our conversation here on the Mike Farwell Show. Stay with us on 570 News Radio and Rogers TV. We're spending some time today remembering Bob McKillop, a former Kitchener Panther, a member of the Chicago White Sox organization, one of the best athletes our community has ever produced. And he meant so much more to the community in general. We've got Tom McKenzie and Ken Schilling, both of whom were former teammates of Bob's. John Thompson here as well had worked with Bob extensively through the Kitchener Sports Association. Tom, you, along with Bob and a couple of others, former Kitchener Panthers, recognized as among the 100 best inter-county ball players ever. Where'd you put that gold bat you got for that recognition?
It's been moving around the house. Last I saw it, it was just leaning against the door to outside. But
what does a recognition like that mean to you?
Well, it meant being in a special club, really, of people that commit a lot of time, and it's one of my better memorabilia for sure.
What got you into baseball originally?
Oh, I grew up playing baseball at about 5, 6 years old. My dad played some, and my uncle played some. My uncle played a little bit in the intercounty, but I used to go to the side of the house and throw the Indian rubber. I had an Indian rubber ball, which really moved.
If you're throwing that against the side of the house, your reflex has got to be quick to get it back.
I do short hops, long hops. I do seventh inning was backhands. Oh, jeez. Yeah, I did that day after day after day. I enjoyed it a lot, just having a ball in my hand.
So if I could, how did you first meet Bob, Tom?
We first met Bob. I was at a high school football clinic, and it was at the CNE, and Bob happened to be there. And I met him there for the first time, and I always remember that about him being there, and that I'd seen him. We didn't really talk, but I knew he was there. And then I went down to Florida during March break, and there he was again. And that's twice I saw him without actually getting to meet him. And then when I came back to Kitchener and he showed up at the park, we introduced each other, and it was a go from there on. And it was really interesting. Like I said, his family really paralleled my family, age-wise and everything else, and so it was a natural.
What about you, John? Do you remember your first meeting with Bob?
I was thinking about that as Tom was speaking, and I think my first year of university, we're going back a long time, and Bob was, I was in a Zayre store, and there was someone in front of me in line and carrying out several big bags of groceries, probably total about $30 worth in those days, but and I said, who is that guy? He looks familiar, and it was Bob McKillop. He and Margaret were in line at the Zayre store at Waterloo Square, and I was a bit in awe of him because as a student at University of Waterloo, I was aware of his growing reputation already. So I never did talk to him, though, until we got involved, I think, in KSA. If we have time a little later, there's several other areas where Bob was involved in the community, and if we have time, I'd like to share that too.
Tom, you sounded similar to John. When you knew of Bob McKillop, you knew the reputation, you knew the person, but you had only seen him, right? The CNE, then again in Florida. It wasn't until you're on the diamond together that you make that introduction.
That's exactly right.
A little bit in awe, I guess.
Yeah. Hey, I think I know you.
What about you, Ken?
Well, I think the first time we were playing, junior and senior were very close back then playing baseball, and they usually called up a couple junior players to come up and sit on the bench or whatever. They were short players. I remember the first time I come up and Bob was going in a pitch, and they said, somebody go catch him in the bullpen. And nobody wanted to catch him in the bullpen because it was pretty dark down there. So you're the rookie or whatever, you're down there. And I think the first time I caught down there, I was just trying to survive. I threw the ball so hard, and this ball moved, and I thought, oh, wow. It was impressive.
This impressive athlete that accomplished so much on the field of play, as we've talked about, Ken, did so much for the community, particularly sports, especially baseball. And I know, among other things, the lights that we now enjoy so we can play longer into the day at Bright Up Park. Bob was a driving force behind getting those installed.
Bob was a big part of that, and the lights at Lions, too.
Yep.
And we had a brand new batting cage reconstructed at Bright Up so we could have more time for players or teams to practice without being on the fields. He was a big part of that. And then Kitchener and Baseball honored Bob with a bench. We have a ring of honor, we call it, at Bright Up 2 around the diamond. And Bob has a bench there with his name on it. And we have a lot of other people. And Bob, as you know, was a very good speaker and liked to talk quite a bit. So he was our master of ceremonies whenever we had somebody else honoring with the bench. So we did a great job.
It's a fitting tribute to somebody of his stature. John, you alluded to, even beyond sport, the other ways that Bob was involved in and contributed to our community.
Well, I know that he and Tom were prolific players. Ken was also a Panther, but I'm not sure if you realize what a strong affinity you and Bob had. And I've seen,
besides just the gift of gab?
Well, that could be part of it, but I've seen on occasion where Mr. McKillop would be sporting a Toronto Maple Leafs cap. And
he's a smart guy, John.
Okay. Yeah. That just points that out, right? Anyways, Bob was involved in Kitchener Sports Association. One thing that, in his latter years, if you will, maybe the last decade or so, he loved doing PowerPoint presentations on his computer. And so when we did the volunteer recognition program at KSA, Bob's quirky is probably a good a good adjective here. Bob's quirky sense of humor would come forward in some of the images he would have in that. And he did that for me for the IC Hall of Fame productions and other events that we had in the community. He loved doing that. He loved being able to research and make people look good on the screen in kind of a whimsical sort of way. So he was a good asset for Kitchener Sports Association. Yeah, and I had a summer tournament. Mike, I think you played in a one-year sports and scholarships golf tournament. Bob was bringing his greeting and hosting capabilities to that, making people feel welcome. He had a lot of talents that weren't just physical, athletic types of things. I think if you're a friend of Bob, don't ever cross him, but if you're a friend of Bob, you're a friend for life. I think that's a pretty good statement.
Yeah.
Absolutely fair to
He
say.
was really well recognized. You probably one of the best recognized people in the area. If you mention his name, people would know who you're talking about right away. And it was all good.
I think the other part, too, is when he left Kitchener Minor Baseball, he was always there, and he mentored a lot of us for Kitchener Minor Baseball coming up, getting into it. He was always there if you had a problem or something we discussed with him. He was always so helpful in giving us good advice and steering us in the right direction. So,
I felt similarly to each of you gentlemen when I met Bob for the first time, because I'm just a young kid trying to make his way in sports broadcasting to some degree through my work with the Rangers. And when Bob first introduced himself to me, I knew who he was. I thought, wait a minute, this man is extending his big bear paw to shake my hand. And it was definitely an awe-inspiring experience for me. Tom, I'll start with you here as we just wrap things up. But how did you receive the news? What went through your mind when you learned of Bob's passing?
Well, I had been down there. Cheryl and I had been down there 3 or 4 times. And we were aware of the fact that he was on his way out. And but like we went down with the idea of just kind of talking to him and making him feel better. He ended up going out with us for dinner a couple times, and he was just his old self. Like you had to shake your head, saying, "Is this guy really?" And then you realized that it was, and he was really in pain. But he was a bear for punishment, that's for sure.
It's a good memory to have those dinners that you might not have expected that he still participated in. What about you, Ken?
Yeah, I think a lot of them remember Tommy always has former Panthers over for Christmas all the time.
Yeah.
And Bob would be there, and ex-Panthers would be there. But I remember Bob, and unfortunately when Marg passed away, I think it was in March, I think that was a huge, huge blow to him because they were very close, and she used to look after him when he was going through stuff. And but yeah, then I heard Bob, and I talked to Bill Pegg quite a bit about Bob and how he was sort of going not too well. But he'll be missed, definitely missed. He was such an inspiration to myself and a lot of other people. So
time marches on. It's merciless, but I think you sum it up so well there, Ken. He will be missed by the community for sure. John, what about you? And you heard the news, and what goes through your mind?
Well, unfortunately, it was not unexpected, as Tom and Ken have stated. He was in decline. I remember even, Bob was such a straight shooter as long ago as, 1 or 2 years ago. Bob, how are you doing? And it was a very definitive answer, not good. So he didn't mind sharing and opening up to people that, he was struggling. He was having some difficulty. Now, I guess it wasn't just 1 or 2 years. It's probably the last 4 or 5 years at least that he had some health challenges. Big surprise for me was that Marg passed away before Bob. I was always assuming that Bob would go first and Marg would have to do all that planning. I had hoped to get down to the Lost Forest where they live just north of Burlington, and I always used to kid Bob about that. How does anybody ever find you when you're here bird and in the Lost Forest? And I worked through his daughter Barb, and a couple of occasions when we tried to set something up. So I never did get to visit him other than a phone call about 2 days before he passed away. And it was almost Bob as usual, except that he knew he was going to pass away, and he knew. I said, I'm going to try and get down to see you. And he said, well, don't make any long-range plans, I think was his way of stating it. And that was Bob, pragmatic, honest, open. And I'm glad I had that opportunity to speak briefly with him for, 2-3 days before his eventual passing. There will be a celebration of life for Bob, and that will be on Friday, October 24th at Memory Gardens, where they also had the celebration of life for Mark a few months ago. And that's on 2723 Victoria Street North, just past Breslau on the way to Guelph. So
on the right-hand side.
Bob, on the right-hand side, Bob would be looking down, and he would love to see anybody who had any respect for him or knew him and come on out and help celebrate the life of a giant, the life of a legend.
The three of you have been instrumental in doing that here this morning. Thank you all for being here.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks for having us.
Tom McKenzie, Ken Schilling, John Thompson on the Mike Farwell Show, remembering Bob McKillop, 570 News Radio and Rogers TV. Healthcare workers in our community will rally tomorrow for fair wages for all staff. This picket will happen in a very visible location on King Street West in Midtown, outside the Wren at Midtown location, or if you're as old as me, KW Hospital, then Grand River, now Wren at Midtown. But fair wages for all staff is what the picket is all about. And to talk more about it, we're joined this morning by Trina Buchert, who's a medical lab technician with Wren, Waterloo Regional Health Network. Trina, good morning.
Good morning. How are you?
I'm very good, thank you. How are you?
I'm not bad.
Glad to hear that. Along with Trina, we have Judy K. Freeman with us. Judy is Local 236 President of the Ontario Public Service Employees Union, or OPSU. Judy, good morning to you.
Oh, good morning, Mike.
Trina, if I could start with you as a medical lab technician, can you give us an idea of what you do? What's the job of a medical lab technician?
Oh, there's multiple departments in our hospital that a medical lab technician would be involved in. Mine specifically is the pre-analytical portion. So my department would deal with the phlebotomists of the hospital, the people that go out and would take the blood from the patients in the hospital and bring it back to the lab for the technologist to process.
Gotcha. And you are helping to organize this picket tomorrow for your fellow lab staff at Wren at Midtown, fair wages for all staff. What's this all about, Trina?
So now that Grand River Hospital and St. Mary's have merged and we are now Wren, we are basically working under the same company. We are under the same umbrella, and there is quite a wage gap from the lab staff at our location and then the lab staff at St. Mary's, which is now Queens Boulevard. We knew that our staff are unionized and their lab staff are not. So we've known for a while that there would be a Placerta vote to decide if we are both going to be unionized or not. During this time, we were kind of assuming that there would be a wage freeze until we could be at the same wages. But the hospital has gone and given the lab staff at St. Mary's a cost of living wage increase in April, which we were denied. So we feel that we are worth a cost of living increase, and we want to be heard.
So just so I'm clear on this, Trina, essentially what we have here is a staff member doing the same job at a different location being paid more?
Yes. There is almost a $7 wage gap between the two sites on certain levels of the pay scale.
So, Judy, let me bring you into this as the president of Local 236 with OPSU. First of all, how do we could we continue having staff doing the same job, some of whom are unionized and some of whom are not? Could that continue?
No, that won't continue. Part of the merger that is happening, this happened back on April 1st. We have a Public Sector Labor Relations Transition Act, which needs to be followed. So it's a governing process that outlines working conditions, union representation, and bargaining rights that will be followed through the merger process. We actually have our Placerta meeting with all the union groups. So that's not just OPSU, that would be with ONA, Unifor, for example, for both sites, as well as the employer and the Ministry of Labour. So on next Monday, that's September 22nd, we'll be meeting in Toronto, and we'll be going over and then looking at issues, and that we'll know, hopefully by the end of Monday, what our next steps are going to be. The concern that we have is because we're a little unique, because we have unionized workers at Midtown, and we also have non-unionized workers over at QB, and vice versa, because Local 239, which represents the diagnostic imaging department between the two hospitals, is like us, but the opposite. So what is going to happen is you can't have different wages within the same organization, but how do we get to having similar wages? And one of the things will be, like Trina had mentioned, is the possibility of, it's called PSLRTA, that's the whole big Public Sector Labor Relations Transition Act, may determine that there could be a vote, and the vote will be with all the members, and we could possibly be voting out the union. The concern is unfair labor practices because, giving the non-union staff that do the exact same jobs at both sites this wage harmonization, the hospital's calling it, which includes a 3% COLA to one group and not the other group. OPSU is believing that they're skewing some of the way members may vote, which is part of the unfair labor practice, which we will be discussing at the Placerta meeting next week. Moving forward, we have to be on the same wages. How we get there may be determined by bargaining in the future, or if we're no longer unionized, it will be part of employment relations. So we're just trying to say right now, it would have been great if the hospital had even given the union staff similar wage increases to the non-union staff. The hospital has chosen not to do that. We would have loved to have even had a COLA. Right now, it's very demoralizing for our staff here at the union staff to see the non-union staff get a wage increase for doing the exact same work. And that's what we're trying to bring to light tomorrow.
I would imagine, Judy, there's been some conversation with hospital administration about this?
Yes, the lawyers for OPSU have sent off a letter to the hospital. The hospital lawyers have said, no, they don't believe that they're doing anything that would be considered unfair labor practices. This had always been their intention of having the wage harmonization for non-union staff as part of their merger process. But, we're going to have to, we've filed a grievance with the Ontario Labour Association, or basically Ministry of Labour, and we'll be discussing that on Monday. We're disappointed in the hospital's response. We'll basically say that.
When is the next round of bargaining?
Well, that would be the interesting part, is because Placerta would then dictate how we do the bargaining. So we would have to be doing our very first contract all over again. So we would have to go into a composite bargaining that would bring things together between a non-union and a union environment, discussing seniority, service, things like that. And then once that has been established, then we would go into bargaining. It will be a long process for us. So that is why also staff, even if we do get these pay increases eventually, and hopefully retroactive back to April 1st of this this spring, I should say, it could be years. And, to sort of see your coworkers doing the exact same job, but they're making, like Trina said, the starting wage difference is about $6.75 on average difference, which is a significant amount of money.
Trina, can you walk us through what happens tomorrow at the picket? What are we going to see?
So tomorrow, our staff, we are not allowed to strike. So we are volunteeringly going out during our lunch breaks to picket. we're gathering as many people as we can to hold signs just to bring awareness to the public of what's going on. So that's happening from 9 a.m. till 1 p.m. tomorrow.
And that's on King Street West, essentially outside Wren at Midtown.
Yes, it will be on the sidewalk off of hospital property. We will not be blocking any patients or staff from going in and out of the hospital. It's a peaceful rally just to bring awareness.
I thank the both of you for joining our show to bring awareness to this morning. I really appreciate it. Thank you very much for being here.
Thank you for having us.
Trina Buchard and Judy K. Freeman joining the show this morning. Trina is a medical lab technician at Wren Midtown, and Judy K. Freeman is the president of OPSU Local 236 at the hospital network. And the rally tomorrow from 9 until 1 that you just heard Trina talk about is in response to unionized staff at the newly merged health network being denied the same near $7 per hour increase, even though it was requested until bargaining could get underway. But non-union staff gets the increase, unionized staff does not. And of course, the union believes this is an attempt to influence the outcome of the merger overall. So watch for that rally tomorrow outside what was formerly known as Grand River Hospital, now Wren at Midtown, as unionized staff say, hey, we're doing the same job, we should get the same pay. We're going to take a quick break from one provincial issue in healthcare to another in education. The signs of schools crumbling. Are those signs of underfunding public education here in the province? We'll talk about that next on the Mike Farwell Show. This is 570 News Radio and Rogers TV. I think it's fair to say we all know by now the issues plaguing Elizabeth Ziegler Public School in Waterloo, issues that have forced the closure of the school so needed repairs can be done and the school can be safe for reopening. In the meantime, oh my goodness, what a curveball thrown at families who have had to shuttle their kids elsewhere, primarily Sandown School. But with that crumbling Elizabeth Ziegler School as the backdrop, a media conference was held yesterday, attended by families, education workers, union leaders, MPPs, calling on more provincial funding for public education. Jeff Pellick is the president of the Elementary Teachers Federation of Ontario, Waterloo Region chapter, joins us for a chat. Good morning, Jeff.
Good morning, Mike.
What is the crumbling nature of Elizabeth Ziegler School telling us?
It's telling that our schools need some TLC, and we need to get back to taking a look at how schools are currently funded and school boards are currently funded, because the repair backlog is just unacceptable. And in the Waterloo region, 55 of 123 schools are below a state of good repair, and that's the board's numbers. We have a repair backlog of $178 million. And so things are just not okay in our schools as far as the physical condition. And, you know, yesterday was really an opportunity for us to shine a light on that, but also to show that investments in the repairs of public school will result in trades, in the skilled trades, and more jobs within our community. And it's a win-win for everybody. So a little confused why the government won't do that.
If the state of our public schools is as it is, and you've outlined that there, Jeff, why is it that our Catholic board has been able to maintain schools in much better standing?
Well, and I think it really depends on a lot of different factors and how the school board, allocates different money and what they would consider things that they need to repair and the number of tradespeople. But I can tell you in the Waterloo Region District School Board, we're faced with some pretty tough decisions as far as what is getting repaired and which staff are hired. We have a lot of situations where in the Waterloo board custodians aren't being replaced. That, it's not a job that a lot of people want to take, and the funding is just not there. And so we are hearing about a lot of situations where our afternoon and evening custodians, they're not replaced when they're sick, They're not replaced, when they retire, and that's just not okay.
Is this how does the ministry allocate the funding, Jeff? Is this a big pot of money and it's up to the board to decide where it gets allocated, or is there a certain amount for school repairs, a certain amount for staff, et cetera? How does that work?
There's absolutely funding for a variety of different things. There's a per pupil amount, which goes directly to classroom instruction, and there's also capital investment funds and very targeted investments from the ministry to public schools, and that's really what we're talking about here, is that there is not enough money going directly to school repairs. And a lot of money you'll hear about investments, and you'll see the pretty little province of Ontario signs at schools when they're going through repairs, because the government is showing, this is where money is going. But I can tell you that there are a lot more schools that need those investments. And, a lot of things have changed over the years. Schools are expected to be safe places and places where they can accommodate most students, and our board is definitely going through a process of installing elevators, making sure that folks with accessibility needs are able to enter the building, and the money is going towards there. But then we have a lot of situations where schools like Elizabeth Ziegler are in dire need of repairs, and they've been identified, and custodians have been putting in work orders saying this needs to be done, and the funding is not there, and there's just not enough money to go around.
You pointed out those signs that we will see at schools where the province is touting its investment in this, that, or the other thing, and this provincial government has said it's invested to the tunes of billions of dollars in education. So where is that money going then if it's not ending up here?
Well, let's take a look at the OPSPA data. So that's the Public School Board Association, and they released a report this year that talked about the impacts of inflation on the per pupil funding. And when you take a look at the pupil funding and adjust it to inflation, what we get now in 2025 is actually less than in 2018 when the PC government was elected. And so they like to talk about, they're investing more money, but it's not keeping up with inflation. And we certainly know that the pandemic has had a huge impact on the costs, and that has not been addressed in provincial funding. So it's kind of a little bit of speaking lines here that are not actually showing the reality of the situation.
Do we know, Jeff, what it would cost to bring our schools back into, within the public board, a state of good repair?
Yeah, in the public board, the immediate repair would be $178 million, and then over the next decade, we'd be looking at about $580 or so million to keep things up to a standard. And look, here's the reality: in our board, 96.7% of the space in schools are being used. And so when you have, we talk a lot about classroom violence, and so when you have a student who becomes dysregulated, who is struggling, there is nowhere in the building for them to go, and any place that they might go, we want to make sure is safe, because there's just we need that space to make sure that students can be successful and learn in a safe environment.
You certainly were well represented, a great cross section at yesterday's media conference. Where are we going from here? Is there any conversation happening with our education ministry that could lead to changes in this regard?
Well, I think it's really important that we have started a petition, and that is a local petition to really highlight what's happening here in the Waterloo region, because we really need our community to push back on the government and say that this is needed. This is not okay. What happened at Elizabeth Ziegler, if it wasn't for the frontline workers who noticed it, the frontline workers who ensured the school year wasn't totally a loss, the school board for coming up with solutions, the government really did very little in the situation of Elizabeth Ziegler, and we don't want that to continue. So we need to apply pressure to our governments, to our local MPPs who are part of this government, to say enough is enough. We need to get back to funding schools appropriately, and that goes with the physical buildings themselves.
Jeff, really appreciate your time on the show this morning. Thanks for being here.
Thank you, Mike.
Jeff Pellick is the president of the Elementary Teachers Federation of Ontario, Waterloo Region chapter. A little bit of follow-up on that media conference from yesterday. I'm sure you heard the story through the day on All News Afternoons yesterday. There's an old saying that goes something like, never let a good crisis go to waste. And when you literally have a school that is crumbling, where pieces are falling off the school, it is structurally unsafe. That's Elizabeth Ziegler in Waterloo. then you use that as a backdrop for a media conference that appeals for necessary funding. And listen, I think it's one of the most important areas that we can fund because this is our future, right? The kids in those schools learning the things that will sustain us long term, because there are people my age who are long since done with school and now counting on those current students to be there for me when I'm no longer there for myself, if you know what I mean. And just one of the things I'm struggling with a bit here is the discrepancy between our local public school board and our local Catholic school board when it comes to the state of schools. The Catholic board seems to be doing a better job. The schools are in better repair. And that's why I asked the question around the budget allocation. Is it a pot of money and then the board figures out what it's doing with it? Because if it's one thing we can say about our public board of trustees, not the staff, but the board of trustees, they have not been good stewards of the public purse. Millions wasted on a previous education director, and I'm sure that could have gone a long way to school repairs. This is the Mike Farwell Show, 570 News Radio and Rogers TV. Don't look now, but it's already the third Tuesday in the month of September. And on the third Tuesday of every month, we do a deeper dive and take a closer look at an issue that continues to resonate with so many in our community, that issue being housing. And helping us in this endeavor on the third Tuesday of every month is Philip Mills, who is the CEO of Habitat for Humanity, Waterloo Region. Mr. Mills, good morning, sir.
I don't love that we're already at the third Tuesday. Like, not because I don't like talking to you, but the fact that we're this far into September, it didn't even process until you said it, and I don't love it.
I had to say it again, Phil, because earlier this morning when I was putting things together for the show, I did a double take. I'm like, wait, it's the 16th. How can it be the third Tuesday already? But that's just the way the numbers fall this month.
Happy to be back. Thank you for the time as always.
Well, I appreciate yours because I have a perspective to share that I brought up on the show earlier today, and it ties right into what we're about to talk about. And because this really is, Phil, if it's not the issue of our day, I don't know what is, quite frankly. So I don't know where we're getting all that music from
in our
municipalities. And I use the term
we're playing
time
back
of
here.
year. Hang on now. You might recall, even going back to last. Thank you, gentlemen, in the other room. That's some gremlins in the system here, Phil. Now, they didn't want me to pontificate too much. Let me just get right down to this, because what you're talking about today fits in very nicely with what was on my mind last evening as we walked the dog. I'll ask you what sounds like a simple question, but I think the answer gets pretty complex. Who is it, Philip Mills, that we are building homes for?
It should be a simple question. Like, in theory, it's people. But if you spend any time building houses, it's everybody but people. It's everything else that gets in the way. Every other thought, factor, consideration, like everything but people is what is driving what we're building right now.
So what are all of those other entities that are part of the system before me as a people ends up in that home?
The easiest place to go, because everybody knows this is the case, is to talk about cars. And this is not an anti-car rant. Now, if you ask me to get an anti-car rant, I can certainly make one, but that's not what I'm trying to do here. It's fascinating. If we've said, I'm going to build this property, I'm going to build this home for a bunch of people, you absolutely have to answer the question, okay, but where do the cars live? Where are we going to put all of these cars? What's the parking for the cars? And it's like, well, we don't have a lot of parking. Well, then you can't have the people. That, like, cars have to be there for the people. And there's been some interesting work the municipalities are trying to do around less parking or no parking. But in the end, if we can't have parking, we can't have people. So, like, the cars seem to be the priority. And so you figure, okay, where are the cars going to go? And then we start talking about, I don't know, setbacks, how close, houses can be, what the backyard's going to look like, all those sorts of things. And they all make sense. Like, you don't want a backyard that you can't get a lawnmower into. So you have a setback, and there's reasons for these sorts of things. Because, like, setbacks, the reason you think neighborhood feel doesn't look the way that it's supposed to, and that's the way that our community is supposed to be designed. And so all of these things that in a vacuum make sense. Yeah, most people drive a car, so considering car makes sense. Yeah, most people want to be able to get to their backyard, so setbacks make sense. Yeah, People don't want things that don't look and feel like their neighborhood, so it makes sense. But layered all on top of each other, we haven't talked about a person yet. We've talked about all these other sorts of things that people might use. But the actual people themselves, what their living experience is, doesn't seem to come up.
The look and feel of neighborhoods, Phil, is something that I'm acutely aware of. Anybody that watches a municipal council meeting these days can feel the tug of war that goes on, sense the tensions when a neighborhood is changing because there's a taller building going in. There's infill. So we're taking what used to be a single family detached home and replacing it with a duplex with 2 units in each. So there's four units of housing as of right, for example, which we're doing in our cities here. And I get the sense that what we end up doing is creating a system whereby the people doing the building are building what they can build at the best price so they can extract the greatest value or profit from it.
Yeah, to a certain extent, you're right. Like every developer I talk with, in the end, there's a question of like, this is kind of math, right? They're saying, what is it going to cost me to build this? What can I sell it for? Do we make a profit? Because developers are for-profit entities. Like our housing system is, in weird ways, tied up, it's entirely in for-profit endeavors. And so that is going to make sense. They're going to say, what can I design here? What can we get? What can we sell? If you're thinking about things that were, condos were really built for investor class folks, people who are buying them as investors. And as that market dries up, you don't see as many condos being developed because it doesn't make the most sense. But in the end, again, investors, while they are people, they're not the people living. And while you're looking at developers, they're going to build what they think they can sell. But it's not necessarily what does a person desperately want to live in. It's how do I make sure that I can cover my costs and make a profit? Because if they can't make a profit, their investors don't come through. If they can't make a profit, the banks won't back them, and they can't continue to be a builder if they're not making money. So they have to make money. So they take the security, the certainty of, we'll just keep building what we've done before, which wasn't necessarily designed to what's the best livability for a person, but how do I make sure that I make the return on this we need to? Which, again, this isn't bad about any one group. This isn't because engineers aren't building the right things or architects aren't designing the right things or developers are bad people. This is all of these competing interests all the way around drive us towards let's build what we have been building, which was not designed necessarily for people and is not now going to be redesigned for people. So we just keep doing the same thing over and over. And we don't end up with housing that thought, hey, is this livable and great for a person? Does it check every other box before we start talking about the person who's going to live there?
And I feel, Phil, as though we've gotten ourselves, we've to some degree painted ourselves into a corner here. Phil can't hear me anymore. You can't hear me at all? I don't know if we changed something on that end. Now you got me back? Phil can't hear me anymore. Where did we go? Now you got okay. We're having so much fun. That was probably my fault when I asked them to mute the other side because I was hearing some feedback over here. I feel as though, Phil, we have painted ourselves into a bit of a corner here with decades, frankly, of poor planning where we just sprawled and sprawled and sprawled. And now in the last decade, as we try to make up, I guess, for the sprawl plus accommodate more people, we have very little choice left but to do what we're doing. And that is the infill I talked about, the going up that we're seeing the tug of war within neighborhoods. And I'm wondering this, quite frankly, and this gets back to what I was thinking about as we walked the dog last night. Yes, homes should be the simple answer for people. But I'm wondering if people even want the homes we're creating today, because unless you want to live in a condo with 400 other people, we don't have much to offer these days.
I think that kind of gets back to the problem here. You articulated it well. Like, we are trying to solve 20 and 30 years of a problem in a year or two. We're like, well, we haven't done anything in the way we could have over a long period of time. So we're going to try and fix this quickly. So we're lurching forward. So instead of having gentle density, where a property that would have been 1 unit maybe becomes 2, or a 2 becomes 4, we're saying this, community that had, standalone family units, they're one house. We're not going to put 4 places there. We're going to put 7, 10. We're moving quick. We're densifying quick because the need is there, the demand is there. But because there's so much need and so much demand, I think it is fair to ask, is this what people want? Is this what people are really, like, how much choice and agency does a person have in buying a house today when They are limited in opportunity because we're not building as much as we used to. We're having to build a particular thing to try and make up for poor choices in the past. And the folks who are building it need it to go quick. Like, I don't think it can be overstated how much a delay can cost a project. Like, how many times have we driven around the region and seen a project get delayed and then it just doesn't happen? Half-built buildings, condos that sort of didn't go. That's because the math didn't work out. And so developers and folks who are building this are going to be sure, and the way that they're sure is doing what they've done in the past because they know their numbers, they know the math works. So we're going to keep building what we've been building. We're going to keep building what was there before. We don't have room for innovation and interesting and better because interesting could go wrong. There's risk. We can't afford the risk. So we're just going to keep building what we have been over and over and over. And it's going to keep being the same experience. Is this what somebody wanted? I don't know. It's what we build.
Is there a way to break this cycle? How do we go about putting that focus back on the person or people who will live in that house?
I think this comes down to the opportunity that, we're looking at today. We're not seeing a lot of development happening. We're not seeing as much building going on because of a whole bunch of complicated factors we could talk about at a different time. We could talk about why construction is slowed 1,000 ways over. So the government's getting involved. We see work being done with Build Canada Homes, where they're trying to get involved with modular development and different sorts of housing design. We can also see the work that's being done through Build Now, where we've got the City of Kitchener and the City of Waterloo that are investing in sites and asking us to build affordable and attainable housing. We are going to be really careful that this is built for people, because that's what I'm about. That's what Habitat's about. That's what Build Now is going to be about. We're going to build for people. And so what we're hoping to break out of this is, if when the government invests, it invests not for the design of an investor or not for the design of what has always been, but trying to say, how do we make the best community possible? Because you would think the government's goal ought to be similar to mine, which is amazing housing for people to live in, livable spaces. We hope we start to create examples that the market can say, look, that did work. People do want a house that looks like this. The math works and you can make money building a house that looks like this. If we can create that sort of a feedback loop, that sort of a pilot that says this is possible, I think there's a real hope the market will follow along, but they're not in a position to take the risk. They're not in a position to try something different. So I think that's where government involvement and government support needs to come in, so that we start putting people first when we're designing housing, not policies and planning acts and setbacks, and specifically cars. Again, I will never let that go.
Until the third Tuesday of the next month, Mr. Mills, always appreciate your time and perspective. Thanks for being here.
Thanks so much for having me. It's great.
Philip Mills is the CEO of Habitat for Humanity Waterloo Region, joins us on the show third Tuesday of every month at 11:30 to talk housing on the Mike Farwell Show, 570 News Radio and Rogers TV. Look, you had me at dogs, okay? Because there is nothing, absolutely nothing, that can be going wrong in your day that a dog cannot fix for you. It's that simple. The dog just has to show up and look at you with those little doggy eyes and maybe wag its little doggy tail. And then all of a sudden, everything is just fine. And so I am thrilled to be able to talk a little bit more about Partners with Paws this morning and their Paw Timber fundraiser that is well underway and that you can take part in with the simple click of a mouse. Jacqueline Gorey is the founder of Partners with Paws and joins the show. Good morning, Jax.
Hello, the newlywed Mike Farwell. Congratulations.
Do you know how, thank you so much. It feels, Jacqueline, I'm an old man to be a newlywed at this age, let me tell you. But it feels great. Thank you.
Enjoy it, every minute of it.
I certainly will. Thank you. Before we get into the fundraiser and the awesome items that we can bid on, can you tell us a little bit more about the work you do at Partners with Paws?
So Partners with Paws is a CRA-registered charity that train psychiatric service dogs for people with a mental health disability. So like me, who has PTSD through child abuse, my service dogs will turn on the lights if I have a nightmare. They will interrupt behavior if like picking or scratching. And they will help you, bring you back to the present if you have flashbacks. They also bring you water from the fridge if you need it, to help you get back into the present. So there's all these tasks that we train service dogs to do. and that costs $25,000 per dog. And we get no government funding, so it's all through fundraising events like this one.
Incredible what these dogs can be trained to do. And I'm not surprised at all that it costs some money, $25,000 per. Can you give us a sense, though, Jacqueline, through your personal experience, what it means to have that canine companion that's able to do so much for you?
Yes, so I have PTSD through child abuse, as I mentioned, and when I started to have flashbacks, my service dog Samson would intervene. Actually, when I had the flashbacks, I wanted to stop them so much that I attempted suicide 7 times, and if it wasn't for Samson, I would have been successful, but he interrupted those by knocking knives out of my hands, bottles, pills, razor blades, you name it, he was there for me. And he basically gave me my life back. I was able to be in public, and I was able to be an active member of society. And I can tell you that he tragically passed away very suddenly on the 4th of April this year. And it completely threw me back to where I wasn't wanting to leave the house. I was having night terrors. In fact, to this day, I have not had a full night's sleep for the whole of this year because I am in the process now of training my own service dog, Glenn, which you've had the pleasure of meeting. And, so these dogs are life-saving. I can't wait for Glenn to be able to learn those important tasks to help me get through the day.
And I know that we can help out Partners with Paws through the Paw Timber online fundraiser. You've got an auction online that's helping to raise some money. Tell us some of the things that we will be able to bid on, Jacqueline.
Yes, so if you go to Partners with Paws /events and click on silent auction, it'll take you to the auction page where you will see, I'm going to throw this one out to your listeners because I know that you love the Kitchener Rangers. But there is a hockey stick that is signed by last year's Kitchener Rangers, which is amazing. There is chocolate baskets from Lindt and from Purdy's. There are spa gift certificates and a whole lot more to bid on. Plus, we have launched our very own 2026 calendar featuring 12 of our amazing service dogs, including little puppy Daryl, who's named after Chef D.
I love it. And Chef D and his lovely wife, Trish, are big dog people too. We know that. So it's partnerswithpaws.com/events. You'll find the online the online auction there that you can click on. And the money raised, Jacqueline, goes directly into that dog training?
Yes, and sorry, Mike, if I can just say it's partnerswithpaws.ca.
Sorry, that's my fault. I should have written it down.
/events.
Okay.
But yes, all the money raised goes towards training that service dog for somebody who desperately needs it.
How much are you hoping to raise this month?
We're looking to raise about $5,000. Look at that. I went back to South African rand. $5,000 through the silent auction, which is, going straight towards that dog. I know times are difficult, but please let's raise some money for those dogs.
We will certainly do that. Partnerswithpaws.ca /events. You'll find the link right there for the online auction, and we can bid right up until the end of the month.
Correct, yes. So get bidding. And Mike, thank you so much for all you do, and I wish you the best for your marriage.
Thank you very much. Keep up the great work with Partners with Paws, and I'm sure we'll see each other soon.
Thank you, Mike. Have a good one.
You too, Jacqueline. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Jacqueline Gorey is the founder of Partners with Paws, and it is really, you name it, you're going to find it on this online auction. So check out partnerswithpaws.ca /events. You'll find the link right there. How about a Lady Glaze 6-pack of donuts? There are several, in fact, Lady Glaze prizes there. What else we got? We got restaurant gift cards. We've got a Forefathers Brewing tour and tasting for two. You heard Jax mention that signed Kitchener Rangers hockey stick by the team last year. That, by the way, was just the fourth team in Rangers history to reach 100 points in a season. Not a bad little collector's item. And there is a lot of good value as I look through this online auction right now. How about a giant... Forget it. I'm bidding on the 5-pound Hershey chocolate bar, so stay away from my bid. Partnerswithpaws.ca/events. Check out the online auction. It is open until the end of the month. If you can think it, you'll find it in terms of the items available on this auction, and they're hoping to raise $5,000 by the end of the month. So check it out when you get a chance. I've got to get you to the 570 News Center for an update, and then it is your turn to have your say. The final 60 minutes of our show every day reserved for Talkback. You make the call. You start the conversation. We're here to listen and engage in that conversation on the Mike Farwell Show. This is 570 News Radio and Rogers TV.
Take out the papers and the trash, or you don't get no spending cash. If you don't scrub that kitchen floor, you ain't gonna rock and roll no more. Yakety yak.
Don't talk back.
Just finish cleaning up your room. Let's see that dust fly with that broom. Get all that garbage out of sight, or you don't go out Friday night. Yakety yak.
Don't talk back.
And so we begin our daily hour of Talkback Radio, where it is as interactive as anything you'll find in these here parts. Make the call and tell us what's on your mind. Maybe there was something we talked about on the show earlier today that you didn't get to weigh in on at the time, and you've been saving it to do that now, which is perfectly all right. Or maybe it's something brand new that you want to bring to our attention. You can do that too. 519-570-2545. Star 570 and 1-800-570-5715. Those are the numbers to reach us. Pro tip, if you can't get through on one line, try another one. They tend to get busy, but you can usually find your way in a back door, if you will. So use any of those numbers if you can't get through on one of them. A couple of things just quickly from me. One of the discussions we had earlier today where I had to leave people hanging, and I'm sorry for that. We ran out of time. But we were talking about the 22% municipal tax increase that's currently on the table in Woolwich Township. It's not going to end up at 22%. But I will remind you of what happened in Wilmot a year ago, where they started at 51% and eventually came down, if you will, in air quotes, to 18. These numbers are, in my opinion, utterly out of control. And I'm struggling. I really am. I'm wondering what we have done with the people we have elected and the experience they have or do not have. Because when you start to break down this mess of a budget that is Woolwich Township right now, you have to wonder who was trying to mind the house as we fell further and further behind. I recognize that there is a tax system, a fundamental flaw that needs to be fixed in the tax system. But that can't excuse everything when we're talking about tax increases well into the double digits. And I know it's a simplistic way of looking at it, but truly, this is how I would look at it. A municipal government provides for us X number of services this year. Okay? And we're happy with these services and we're going to maintain these services. Why do they go up the next year more than the rate of inflation? Are we paying the staff that provides those services to us more than the rate of inflation by way of increase? Are we paying more for the construction and the work that needs to be done on infrastructure? I don't know the answers necessarily, but I wonder why it gets so far ahead of inflation. Because we know as employees that we rarely, if ever, get increases to our wages above the rate of inflation. So every year, essentially, we're getting less value for our dollar. We're kind of falling behind. And I've talked to more than one person in this community that says it's getting too damned expensive around here. Well, when you're handing out tax increases in the double digits like Halloween candy, you're ding-dang right it's getting too damned expensive around here. So I'm trying to figure that part out, and I know we left some people on the line earlier today about that. And one other thing I just wanted to touch on goes back to the conversation we had with Philip Mills from Habitat for Humanity, Waterloo Region. And we're talking about what goes into the building of a home and the planning departments and all of the various zoning restrictions. And he used the word setbacks. And it's something I wanted to touch on because this is going to be interesting to watch in Waterloo right now. There is a development out on Conservation Drive in the Laurel Creek area. And the developer has taken the city of Waterloo to the Ontario Land Tribunal because it doesn't like some of the planning elements that the city of Waterloo is insisting on. One of them being a setback or a side yard setback, basically the distance between two houses. And what the developer is asking for is that the minimum setback for a side yard that the city of Waterloo has in its planning, the developer would like to slice it in half. It's currently at 1.2 meters. The developer would like it at 0.6 of a meter. I know this is getting into the details. It doesn't sound like a lot, but consider this. That can be the difference between a side yard where you have easy access to your backyard, where you can put up a fence, where you can put a ladder up against your gutters to do some cleaning, whatever the case may be, and not being able to do that. And the closer those houses are together, the more tension that can be created between neighbors. And the city of Waterloo is trying to hold firm. Usually, the Ontario Land Tribunal sides with the developer. But this is an interesting one to watch because this is what happens when local governments lose control over planning. It sounds like such a little thing. Oh, instead of 1.2 meters, let's make it 0.6 of a meter. Okay, but if you do that, what tension will happen down the road between neighbors when you want to have a gate or a fence or put up a ladder to get to the rooftop, whatever the case may be? All of these different things. What's your access to a backyard look like? And I can imagine somebody living in those houses a decade from now going, well, this sucks. What was the city thinking? Well, maybe in this case, it wasn't the city. It was the Provincial Land Tribunal that overruled the city. Maybe in some cases, cities know best. I don't know. Just throwing that out there for consideration. Something to watch for as this makes its way through the OLT. Let's get to your calls on Talkback, starting with Dallas. Good afternoon, Dallas.
Yes, sir. How are you?
Yes, sir. I'm great. How are you?
I'm not so bad. How
Good,
do you
man.
think our boys, the East Avenue Blue, are going to do this year?
I am very excited, Dallas. In fact, I think this team has a chance to finish in first place in the Western Conference this year.
So do I, honestly. They lost a few good players due to overage, etc., but they put a pretty good equipment together.
They sure did. We got a chance, our reporter Josh Piercy, who's joining me on Rangers broadcasts on the radio this year, got to take a tour of those new digs and everything. Like, this is a top-notch facility now for the players, and we're going to enjoy it as fans too.
Awesome.
Sounds great, Dallas.
Well, anyways, I just wanted to touch on the main topic of the day, which was your first one. I kind of lost my train of thought here.
Yeah, about the municipal tax increases.
Yes. I always find it funny how when comes a certain time of the year, now we got to start crunching some numbers to see what we spent so far. Is there nobody keeping track of this stuff throughout the year? I don't know. And every time they come up with these wonderful projects like the 7 and 8 expansion going towards 12, well, every year it goes up $1 billion, doesn't it?
Yeah, well, that's a good point. And in fairness, that's a provincial project. But your point is well taken. And the longer you wait, the more it's going to cost. So think about what we were talking about in Woolwich Township, where Mayor Sandy Shantz told us a decade plus ago, we were told we should set aside 4.5% every year just to catch up on infrastructure backlogs. Well, we didn't start doing it 12 years ago. Guess what? Not only now are you behind all of those years of 4.5% increases just for infrastructure, but the cost of doing that infrastructure work is that much more expensive. Dallas, you're right. And along with this whole idea of why a municipal budget increases more than inflation, I just don't. I want this. Give me the same services year over year. Why is it going up more? Oh, more than inflation. Is it possibly because municipalities are trying to do more and more things? Is it possible that government is too big? Perish the thought. Sean, good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Yeah, I was listening to Mr. Mills, and it's sort of a thought near and dear to my heart. Like when you go out and around this area, you will see them building houses out in cornfields. Quite honestly,
where are you seeing that? I honestly want to see that. Where?
Paris. You go out Highway 24.
Okay, Paris. But I was thinking in the region. Sorry. Yes.
Oh, sorry. Yeah. Like,
no, that's okay. I got you. Yep.
Like 24A, what used to be 24A from Cambridge towards Paris.
Yep.
And they're like building subdivisions. What used to be cornfields. These subdivisions have like no amenities. Like there's no plazas or shops. You have to have a car. You get anywhere. And likewise in Waterloo Region, you will find these subdivisions that are like mazes. They're not very good for transit or for anything. You basically have to have a car to get anywhere around these new areas in Cambridge. Meanwhile, when I go for my morning walks, there's all sorts of empty brownfield lots. Parts of Galt and stuff. Like, why are we not building these in? Like, why are we? Now, I know there's not much money for the private developers who have to make a profit, but why aren't the municipalities maybe they need to take the horse by the bit and pay developers to build some habitable houses? It's simple as that, because there's not much profit in it for private developers.
I hear where you're coming from, Sean, and I think we're doing pretty well on brownfield stuff. It never happens as fast as we want it to. But I'm going to go back to, because the brownfield would be infill, right? We're infilling up the wazoo around here these days, it seems to me. I want to go back to what you said, though, about going out towards Paris on 24A and subdivisions are popping up in cornfields. Welcome to the Waterloo region of about 40 years ago. And this is, again, I'm a lifer in this town. I understand why the change is happening in the way that it is, but it's what used to make this community attractive, right? People would leave Toronto or Mississauga to come here because they could get a home with a yard, a little bit more space, etc. And now, are we Mississauga West or what? Be honest. If you look at the skyline around here, I honestly feel claustrophobic in downtown Kitchener these days. I'm not blaming anybody. That's just the reality. I get it. But if you want a condo of somewhere between 400 and 900 square feet, this is the place to get one, because we're not building a whole lot else. So what's going to happen? They're going to start heading out towards Paris, where those cornfields are being turned into housing subdivisions. And then next thing you know, Paris will be up, and there we go. It hasn't happened overnight, but it sure as hell has happened. Talkback continues on the Mike Farwell Show, 570 News Radio and Rogers TV. And right back to the phones on a busy Talkback this Tuesday afternoon. Dave, Farwell's Force, member number 47. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Mike. I have two sports positive comments to make, and then a basic question that you're going to be happy to answer. So, on the first one is on the new starting pitcher we had last night, and I can believe it, but I was amazed at all the hoopla and all the excitement going on about, wait till you see this new pitcher, he's going to be the cat's meow. I mean, they were going all over the place about him. And Mike, he lived up to the expectations and all the hoopla. He was unbelievable last night. He had 9 strikeouts. He was just unbelievable. What a job. It was unbelievable. That's the first positive comment. And on the second one, I'm going to talk quickly. I'm going to be a new subscriber to your OHL podcast for the first time, and I'd like to know what day it drops on that's available during the week once the season starts, which is this Friday.
It comes out every Tuesday, Dave. A new episode just dropped this morning.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Thanks, Dave. Great to hear from you, and we'll talk more about Ya Savage when Ian Hunter, Blue Jay Hunter, joins us on the show tomorrow morning talking some Blue Jays baseball, Wednesdays at 11 a.m. Jason, you're on Talkback. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Mike. I'm going to say I think we need to have like a major overhaul of our education system because, I mean, these teachers, they got educations. I would think that they would be smart. They teach kids about how to behave online and stuff like that. But yet it seems like a lot of these celebrations at Charlie Kirk were, they seem to be in the education system. I've long known that there's like radical left there, but it's just really showing how bad the problem is. And we had in Toronto now, they went and showed 11-year-olds the graphic video of a guy being assassinated, saying that he deserved it because he was a fascist. Like, what are they teaching our kids? I don't think that we need to have some criminal investigations, and I think we need to be firing like at least half the school boards because they're insane. All right.
I don't know what I did hear about a video being shown to an elementary school class in Toronto. I'm not certain that it was the video of the assassination itself, whatever video may exist, although I am led to believe that was the case. And I don't know what the teacher said in that classroom because I wasn't there. However, if things like this do happen, do they need to be investigated and fettered out? Yes, of course they do. Dylan, you're on Talkback. Good afternoon.
Hey, good morning, Mike. I'm wondering if you've had someone from the region on the show about these new garbage carts.
Not in a while, not since they were really announced. So short answer would be no. Why? What's up?
So they're supposed to start being delivered in September with collection starting in March. And a couple of things I worry about. One, with on-street parking, that the garbage truck's going to come by, not going to be able to reach my cart and leave my garbage behind for another 2 weeks. Two, it does away with the 2-bag limit every 2 weeks, so it just encourages, more waste to go to the landfill. Three, they're ugly. Just picture a street that has row townhousing and every single house having 2 of these ugly carts sitting in front of the house. Bad idea. I know it's way too late, but I wish it wasn't coming here.
Dylan, really appreciate that call. It's funny. I try to check myself. I do. As, again, just to go back to what I was saying about housing. Like, I'm the old guy in the room. I get it. I don't want to shake my fist at a cloud and say, well, this isn't the way it used to be. But I've had some of the same thoughts as Dylan around the carts. Now, we had to make our selection by September the 5th. I believe maybe delivery will be starting shortly, but I think by next March, everything's in place. What I will tell you is this, Dylan, because I, again, thought of these same things. Look, I don't have a garage at my place, so these bins are going to sit at the back of my driveway, which I don't love aesthetically. And I know, like, why do you complain about that, Farwell? All you have to do is roll that thing to the curb. Somebody's going to come and pick it up. It's one of the great miracles of municipal services, right? All I have to do is get my junk to the curb and somebody's going to come by and collect it for me. But I don't love the idea or the look in my mind of these carts, these garbage bins sitting at the end of my driveway. I've thought the same thing in my neighborhood, which is built in the early 1950s. So lots more space between houses, etc. Not as much street parking. But imagine in closer, cramped neighborhoods with smaller driveways, no garages, whatever. Imagine what that's going to look like. Aesthetically, it's not going to be great. It's really not. And I hadn't thought of the aspect of the trucks not being able to pick it up because it's going to be automated now, right? So another good point. What I will say is this. When I check myself on it, I recognize that these bins are in use in lots of other municipalities, and they seem to be chugging along just fine. How about something like if you're in a township and a more rural area and you've got 100 feet of driveway to drag this thing down in the wintertime? How's that going to work out for you? A one-size-fits-all in a region with rural and urban mix like ours is tough to find. But these things are working in other municipalities, and I anticipate they will work here. But I'm with you, Dylan. I kind of, sort of, don't love it, but that's the direction we're headed. Come heck or high water, can't stop it now. The train has left the station. And Talkback continues on the Mike Farwell Show this afternoon. This is 570 News Radio and Rogers TV. It is a busy day for Talkback. You make the call, we'll answer, and you can start the conversation. Right back to the phones. Mayor Jake, good afternoon.
Mike, how are you now?
I'm good, and you?
Not so bad, thanks. Hey, you're talking about budgets and money. You know, how much money has the region spent on trying to fix this roundabout issue? It's going to end up at least over $100 million in the next few years.
Oh, Mayor Jake, I'm so sorry. Yeah, we're losing you. I'm sorry. You must be somewhere out in Wilmot Township, heading out. Like, are you going deep down Herbs Road by this point? I don't know, but that's sometimes where it gets a little fuzzy. Maybe you're south of North Dumfries. Either way, I don't know about $100 million, but I will say, if you want to bring up roundabouts, and I drive so many every day, Ira Needles Boulevard, right, to get here to the boardwalk for work at the studio. And let me tell you, Ira Needles Boulevard, in and of itself, is an exercise in municipal misspending, because we didn't build it big enough from the very beginning, and then we added more, and then it's still it's ridiculous. And not to mention, it is pothole heaven these days. So I'm with you. I get where you're coming from, right? We build these ding-dang roundabouts, and then after we've got how many dozens of them, we're like, oh, maybe we should make them safer for pedestrians. You think now you want to make them safer for pedestrians? Come on with your coming on around here. Jiminy Christmas. Gary, Farwell's Force member number 41. Good afternoon.
How you doing, buddy?
Great, Matt. How are you?
I'm good. I'm just in the middle of making my lunch. I got the thing on speakerphone, and then I hear the click, and I'm like, oh, okay.
Your turn.
Stop making my lunch.
What's for lunch today?
Well, my lovely better half, she made up about 20 jars of pickled beets. So I like to have some pickled beets every day. And she made some chicken. And then on Sunday, I made some falafel balls. You know, got to keep healthy at 58, right?
Attaboy. Good man.
But listen, Mike, I know you know a thing or two about a thing or two. I've just heard through the grapevine. But driving around in Guelph, coming along Speedville, I had no idea. Sometimes I'm in the loop and I'm out of the loop. But I seen at the college, I guess the workers are picketing. And I'm like, oh. So I guess Conestoga is going through some more changes, you know, like how they had the 300 people layoffs and now the workers. Like I can't help to feel for the students. Like it just seems like such a mess that's going on. I don't know if you could, you know, let us know or let me know of what the double H. What is it? Hockey sticks?
H-E double hockey sticks, yes.
Okay, I'll try to remember it for next time.
All right, Gary, good to hear from you today. Support staff at Ontario's colleges on strike as of last week, I believe. And I think it's 1,800, the number we're up to in terms of layoffs from Conestoga College. I wish I could give you a better response as to the what in all of this. But listen, education is under immense pressure in this province, both public education. We talked about it earlier with, crumbling schools here in our region, and post-secondary. We know they got drunk on international students and the 3-4 times tuition rates they were paying. And now that the tap has been turned off, post-secondary institutions have got to figure some stuff out, and they're having a hard time with it for sure. Mayor Jake, I think we're back in a better cell area.
Can you hear me better now?
I can indeed, sir.
Okay, excellent. Yeah, so, the roundabouts, how much are they going to spend on pedestrian safety when the simple solution is move the crosswalk back 50 feet? Put it so it's not right there. It's that simple. Now we're building speed bumps on them, which is going to cost people thousands of dollars on their suspension costs on their vehicles. Like, it's gotten to the point where it's like they're stacking Legos and hoping that it'll just hold. That's not how it's going to work.
Mayor Jake, fair point. And the fact that this is happening retroactively is frustrating. I got to get to the roundabout with the speed bumps. It's a raised crosswalk. But I've been hearing so many complaints about it. So my commitment to you is I'm going to get my derriere into my car. I know, big deal, right? Farwell's going to drive somewhere in the city where he lives, but I've got to experience this for myself because I've been hearing so many complaints about it. So I will check into it and report back. But look, it is frustrating. We've been saying for almost ever, remove the pedestrian from the roundabout. I don't know why this is difficult. I really don't. And then put a flashing light there for the pedestrian crossing, because you're putting the pedestrians right in the place where the vehicles are starting to go around. As a driver, you are conditioned to look to your left heading into a roundabout. It's just a bad mix. And anybody can see what a bad mix it is. Just move the pedestrian crossing out of the roundabout. Kyle, you're on Talkback. Good afternoon.
Is there an echo on this radio station today? I just said that like 2 weeks ago, and you agreed that the roundabouts should not be touched because you said that the pedestrian safety is more important. Now you're saying that we should be moving him back?
What? I've always said the pedestrian crossing should be moved out of the roundabout.
I told you, go back to the tapes. You said that, I told you about the iron, or the one that's on Bleams in the raised crosswalk, and I said no problem at all, and you just said no. You said we should just leave it how it is. Pedestrian safety is more important.
Well,
so
wait a minute. No.
Are you going to agree that we have to move the crosswalk back, or are you going to agree that we just should put speed bumps on the thing?
No, I'm just saying, well, what are you going to do now? Like the pedestrian,
I told you that, and then you disagreed with me. You said, all right, Kyle, then you hung up the phone on me.
You want to take out now the work that they've just done and move the crosswalk back. I'm like, at this point, leave it there for pedestrian safety. What else are you going to do?
Move it. Get rid of it.
Okay, so just like we've screwed up Ira Needles Boulevard how many times, now we're going to screw up roundabouts again and again.
It's not my problem. I don't work for the city.
Yeah, but I pay my taxes here, Mr. North Perth.
Well, they should use that money that they use for speed cameras and maybe put some money into fixing all that.
Don't get me started, Kyle, because I'm telling you, I am so fired up about speed cameras. I got into it with a buddy last night.
I know, but you know what? The other thing I want to say about being in Perth County, I love my garbage bins. I don't have a garage like you. I roll my bin out every time. I roll my recycling bin, and it's fantastic. I don't have to worry about taking a bag and wondering if there's going to be an animal getting into it or ever. I could rinse it every once in a while and make it smell fresh. I have no problems with it whatsoever. I love it. I think you guys are going to love it. When I lived in the States, we had a rolling bin rolling out to the curb. I came to Canada. I was like, why do we not have this already? So I think that you guys will really enjoy it. I don't know why there's any blowback on it, but we've never had any issues with it. I've got 2-bag system as well. That's our max, and it's never been any issues at all whatsoever. And I don't think we even fill it. And if we do, it's the lid's already shut and all that stuff. So I love them. I don't know why anybody would.
Well, but that's the thing, Kyle. You say a 2-bag limit, which is what we have here, but Kyle was right. More than 2 bags will fit into the big bin, so I can just...
But they're not different sizes. Like, we have different sizes. So, it's just me and my other half. So there's only 2 of us. So I asked for the smaller one. If I want to get an upsize and get a bigger bin, I obviously have to pay more in taxes for that. But that's
Do
not
you?
a big issue.
I don't know. I'm getting the big bin. I'm not paying any. I hope I'm not paying more for it.
That's what I was told. I think it's a little bit. It costs a little bit more per year, but I mean, it wasn't like anything that's going to break the bank. Like I said, no. I like the smallest bin. There were never any issues, and the township where I live has been fantastic. She's always, when I first moved, she was asking, like, do you like it? Is it good? I said, no problems at all whatsoever. So I think you guys will really enjoy it, Mike. Thanks a lot, my friend.
All right, Kyle. Appreciate the call. Lynn sent an email in a similar fashion. First world problems, she says. I get it. And I know these bins have worked elsewhere, and I'm sure will work here. But I've got some misgivings about it for sure. I can't believe Kyle just admitted to loving something else, though. I love my big garbage bin that I can roll to the curb, he says, because I remember when Kyle famously told us what else he loved.
That's the whole point, is I want to make more and more money. I like money. I love money.
He loves money, Kyle does. Grant, what do you love today?
Oh, I like the station.
All right, that's perfect. I like to hear that. Good stuff.
And when I saw this player from Baltimore Orioles, the short fella, I thought, that could be Mike Farwell out there.
Why? Because he was short, Grant? That's why?
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
And did the Rangers win the exhibition game last Friday? Do you know?
Grant, it is Tuesday afternoon, and you're worried about the game last Friday, huh?
Yeah, I like to keep. I like to keep track of.
Okay, well, let me help you keep track. Yes, the Rangers beat Oshawa on Friday 7-2, and then the Rangers lost on Saturday in Windsor. So the preseason is over. The Rangers won 3, they lost 2. Regular season starts on Friday.
Right, and it's. I guess I have to listen to you a bit on.
What do you mean you guess? You don't get. You must listen to me, Grant. You must.
I have to listen to you a bit.
Okay.
Because the Blue Jays are on.
Oh, so you're going to have divided loyalties.
Yeah, and
that's fair.
I think that CEO from Conestoga College should feel guilty for his employees. Like, my goodness, give me a head shake.
I'm not sure how guilty the president of Conestoga College feels. I'm sure he feels pretty wealthy, though, with a $600,000+ salary this year. A break and more talk back on the Mike Farwell Show. 570 News Radio and Rogers TV. Busy show for busy people. Right back to the busy phone lines. Jane, you're on Talkback. Good afternoon.
Hi, Michael. I am so glad to get through to talk to you today on 2 points that you brought up in your broadcast. Bob McKillop and also the sense of communities. What communities would you love to live in? So first of all, Bob McKillop was an active participant in the community, as we heard today. My direct involvement with him goes back over 30 years ago in 1992 when the women's selection camp for the women's national team took place here in Kitchener. And Bob was doing some broadcasting for us. And the attention that he gave and the exposure he gave to the women's hockey, I saw him in action interviewing Margot Page and Sue Shearer, who were both local women who were part of that national team. So my first-hand impression of him was what an amazing guy, and the tributes that are coming out to him are, from my perspective, he's done more for this community than many other people need to look up to that and keep his legacy going. So thank you for giving time to pay tribute to him and what's coming up at Memory Gardens. Second point, you talked about where would you like to live in the region. I grew up on a farm in the Breslau area. Since that time, the home farm, since 1860, is now Conestoga Meats, a well-established business in the area. And then the farm I actually grew up borders the railway tracks in Breslau and the community. It is now, part of it's all covered over, ready for development. Breslau has lost its community sense from when I was growing up because it's basically become a bedroom city of Kitchener. I don't regret that. The only thing I regret is when you start losing sense of community, you could start losing sense of accountability. Yesterday, I had the privilege with my Easy Rider cycling group to cycle through the area in and around Wellesley, and I just mentioned to my group, this is what community is an example of. Wellesley, whatever you're doing out there, keep it up. Because as people were walking and saw our biking group coming through their subdivision, people would comment, "Good morning, how are you? Lovely day." They reached out to us. Rather than in the city, you're almost sometimes afraid to even say something to somebody. So Wellesley, keep it up. You're doing a great job of that sense of community. From a little girl growing up in Breslau, sports and the church were the two things that really helped our communities today the way we're all hoping our world would become, where we reach out, help each other, and are accountable to each other. So thank you, Mike, for the time on the show today.
Thank you, Jane, for that excellent call. I have fond memories of playing in the Catholic Youth League as well, some baseball and some hockey back in the day. Quickly on Bob McKillop, it was an absolute pleasure to host some fine gentlemen to remember Bob today. That celebration of life that Jane referenced is October the 24th at Memory Gardens. If you missed the conversation, be sure to check it out on our website, kitchener.citynews.ca. The show gets archived every day, or just listen to the podcast. We recommend the Seeker app. Great place to seek your sounds. Seeker, Seekr. But that was on at 10:30 this morning. And just Jane's point about community, remember what the Waterloo Region Community Foundation just told us about our social cohesion and how it has begun to fray as we have grown so quickly. We need to pay attention to these things. And Jane, that's just a great call. I'm glad you enjoyed that spirit of community as you and your bike group went through Wellesley. Love to hear it. Arnold, you're on Talkback. Good afternoon.
Oh, good afternoon, Mike. How are you keeping?
I'm very well, thank you. How are you?
Very well, thanks.
Good.
Wanted to add some comments on the pedestrian safety issue and transportation overall. And I think what we're seeing, Mike, is all of the symptoms of the abandonment of planning that incorporates pedestrian as the number one safety point. And we're also seeing a lot of problems with the overzealous response to putting a bike lane on every road possible. It has now, with the introduction, as we know, of electronic vehicles, it's created a terrible mayhem for, well, for just about everyone. It's not just someone living in the downtown core, it's someone living out in their favorite trail that they used to walk safely. What we're also seeing, because of all of these actions, expenditures, then they have to go back and try to fix solutions. We're seeing areas that don't receive bus service, and we're also seeing sort of large reductions or large problems with drops in revenue on transit. So just by being overzealous and not focusing on areas, we've got a big problem on our hand in the region with transportation, not just public safety.
Arnold, it's a great point, and I appreciate you raising it. You know, you make me think of what else I saw while walking Rosie the pandemic pup last night. Third straight time, a person on a bicycle. And look, it's a walkable neighborhood. The streets aren't fast moving at all, but wrong side of the road, no helmet, this young man on a bicycle, and on his phone at the same time. One hand on the handlebars and no eyes on the road. Third straight time I have seen someone either on a scooter or a bicycle riding in that manner. And again, I get it. You're on the bicycle. You might hit me as a pedestrian, but what if you run a red light because you're looking at your damn phone instead of the road? And then what's our reaction to that going to be? Oh, we need more safe bike infrastructure. Or maybe what we need are our eyes on the road when we're on the road. Like whatever it is that was on your phone probably could have waited until you stopped pedaling your bike on a public roadway. But 3 straight times, scooter and 2 bicycles, 2 eyes on the phone, 0 eyes on the road. And I don't know who's riding the machine. I really don't. Elias, good afternoon. You're on Talkback.
Yeah, good afternoon, Mike. How are you?
I'm very well, my friend. How are you?
It has been a while since I talked to you.
Yes, sir, it has.
So I say, let me talk to him today.
Good.
The other day I was talking to a friend of mine. He does delivery for the Uber Eats.
Yep.
And he walks around that area, Iron Needle and Herb.
Oh, yeah.
And he said, people, when they order, I'm being late all the time, and the customer, they're complaining about being late. You got it? Hello?
Yeah, he's late, and their customers are complaining.
Yeah, because of the traffic, he may be in the line for like 5-10 minutes.
Oh, for sure.
Deliver the food.
I totally get it, Elias. And also, the roundabout at Urban Iron Needles is one of the roundabouts under construction to make it safer for pedestrians. So doing the Uber Eats thing is getting a little bit tougher. I got to leave it on that note because we are fresh out of time already. My goodness, I'm leaving so many of you on the line. I'm sorry I can't get to everyone, but guess what? Tomorrow at noon, we'll do Talkback again, okay? We're going to get you an update from the 570 News Center, then Now You Know with Rob Snow, and I'll come back tomorrow morning at 9, so I'll meet you here then. My name is Mike Farwell. You are a force for good. Bye for now.